listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Top of the morning to you. We'll give it a go. How the heck are you? I know. I feel great.
You could have called for the righty there. I'd have done it for you.
Well,
I know you said you didn't ask. I didn't know that's what you needed. I would have done it for you. I feel bad
had
now.
to try.
I love it.
You know, it's my turn in the rotation.
Right.
I mean, I had to go out there. Yeah, I feel great. I really do.
Threw that one in the dirt, though.
Yeah, maybe. That or the backstop. One or the other. My mom gets this. Once a year, my mother would have this. I'd go, Mom, you sound awful. She goes, I feel fine. And, I think it's sinuses.
Probably.
But I get it once a year. And unfortunately, and now with everything that's going on, so I think I'm fine. I'll go get tested after the show just to make sure. But, I know I sound terrible. I feel great.
I feel not so good. And I think I sound fine.
You do. So reverse roles today.
Tuesday golf will do that to you.
Yeah, you had a good day on the links.
Had a good day out there. It was so nice. Man, oh man, what a great December this has been in Florida. Absolutely perfect. I think we had one cold day the entire month. Outside of that, it's been pretty darn nice.
No, winter's already come and gone. That was very nice of it to be done before the new year. And now, we're already into spring. I mean, that's sensational on the west coast of Florida. It was great for Mother Nature to do that. Don't know when you heard the news. I heard it, I think, within 10 minutes of it becoming public knowledge, the passing of John Madden. And, depending on your age, I think he is different things to different people. But
Absolutely.
But when you think about it, it is difficult to come up with someone, never mind multiple people, who actually had a bigger impact on the sport as a whole. Even though he never played. He was drafted by the Eagles, suffered a knee injury in training camp, never played in the NFL. Was a head coach by 32, won over 100 games in 10 years. And remember, up until I think his last year in the league, they played 14-game seasons. So to average 10 wins a year for over 10 years, the worst you could do, it wasn't a 10-6 you had to throw up on the board. You had to throw no worse than a 10-4. And there were a lot more ties back in the day. Madden had 7 ties. 7.
We love a good tie, David.
Well, you and I are, advocating for more ties.
Absolutely. And in a lot of different sports, too. We actually want ties in baseball. We're the only 2 people out there suggesting that baseball games should end after 12 innings.
We definitely are that.
The only ones. But with John Madden, I had family over last night, so I was kind of tuned out of the sports world. I actually found out when I got up this morning, about 4:30. Grabbed the phone and looked at it. Oh, and it was more of an odd damn. I mean, 85 years old.
It's a good run.
You and I have joked for a long time, and I said, David, he got to the finish line.
Yep.
That's what we all want.
Yep. You and I have said, minimum is 80. We'd love 85. After that, we're day to day.
Right.
And we'll take our chances.
I've joked that that 80 years is the 18 holes of life. And that if you anything from 81 to 85, you're in the 19th hole. You're enjoying a cocktail, watching everybody else come in. And so from that standpoint, I was kind of just looked and I went, well, damn, that's a hell of a life. And the irony to me was that they just aired the special on Christmas Day, and obviously passing on the 28th of December, that's what hit me more than anything.
How many people basically can get their eulogy while they're alive? Because, and if you haven't seen it, it was a 90-minute documentary, and Fox doesn't do a lot of those, but Tom Rinaldi did it, even though his voice is barely on it. You hear him ask a couple questions very early on in it. He just uses, it was John Madden and 38 others who were interviewed, and they just tell the story through basically, everybody and what they had to say. A lot of footage and audio that you have never seen before. A lot of people cooperated with Fox on this because John worked for all 4 networks. Only one to ever do it. And he was the number 1 guy for all 4 networks. Think about that. That's how good he was. CBS, Fox, short run with ABC, and then finished with NBC with Sunday Night Football. So, John was on all 4 networks in a nearly 30-year broadcasting career. First off, he hasn't been on the air in 13 years. And he is still, to so many people, a big presence in the NFL, and to a lot of fans, the soundtrack of the NFL. And he has not voiced a game in 13 years.
Well, it's the power, quite frankly, of video games. Because if you're a video game guy, never have throughout your whole life. I'm a video game junkie. I see those Super 70 sports things with a Galaga machine, and I get a little jumpy. But, for anybody that's, let's just say 45 and under, because I remember Madden the coach, and I remember Madden the broadcaster. But the role of people, you're my age, you can't be much younger than me and remember John Madden the coach.
And you're 52.
Right. So I would think that's, 50 years old. If you're 50 and over, you may remember the coach. If not, you don't remember the coach.
I believe his last season was the 78 season. He coached 10 years, the 69 season through the 78 season. 10 years, won the AFC West 7 times, made the AFC Championship game 7 of the 10 years he was a head coach. 1-6 in the AFC Championship game. Actually, it was AFL Championship game. He lost 1 or 2 of those, and then he lost a bunch of AFC Championship games.
There were some pretty good teams he was playing against in those games.
He kept running up against those
Dolphins and Steelers.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yep. That was the big 3. Somebody had to lose, and oftentimes it was the Raiders at the end of the day.
We had a little snafu on Twitch that remained on for about 24 hours without a pitcher. So I had a lot of texts telling me that it was on, which didn't do me much good because I wasn't here. But we also started getting text about John Madden. And I laughed at this one. He said, the woke politics of Twitch won't let me post this. You'll know why in a second. He says, but the only NFL shield of broadcasting was CBS, Madden, and Summerall doing Cowboys and Redskins from RFK.
Well, and everybody has their own memories depending on how old you were. CBS had the NFC for the longest time, and NBC had the AFC. So if you were fans of an AFC team, you had Kurt Gowdy and then Dick Enberg were your 2 play-by-play voices. And then you went from Al DeRogatis to Merlin Olsen to maybe Bob Trumpy. Those were the announcers that you had during the so-called heyday, if you will. But yeah, CBS, it was Summerall and Brookshire, who were very close friends, drinking buddies.
Legendary drinking buddies.
Yes. In fact, they were probably still intoxicated doing the pregame of a Bears playoff game in the late 70s. They had tied one on for a long time the night before. Yes. And when they took Brookshire away from Summerall, he was not happy. John Madden even said, the first half of season we kind of did together. There wasn't a whole lot of talking between the 2 of us. But by the end of that first season, and then they did the Super Bowl. But for me, it's difficult to think of Madden and not think of, because I've been fortunate in the last 4 years to become a part of the Fox broadcasts. And most everybody at Fox was with CBS back in the 80s and early 90s. And when Fox stole the NFC, a lot of those people said, well, there's no reason to stay here at CBS. I might as well go work at Fox. That's where the work is. So now they've all been Fox employees for the last 25, 30 years. And the lead producer for the A game, if you will, Buck and Aikman, is Richie Zients. And Richie Zients basically owes his professional career to John Madden. One of the closest friends in his life. John actually introduced him to his wife. Did I ever tell you? I know I told you that. Did I ever tell you the...
You didn't tell me the story. How you told me?
Quick.
You told me that last week because we were talking about this documentary, and he had a lot to do with this documentary.
Yes.
In fact, maybe everything to do with it.
The thought was, Fox really wanted to do this. John's voice was getting weaker. He hadn't done a sit-down interview in like 5 to 7 years, and the thought was he didn't want to do it, but Fox really wanted to. Richie Zients, Eric Shanks, this president or CEO of Fox Sports, who basically started as like an intern and a gopher at CBS. And now he's, got the corner office. And they all wanted to do this. They knew, John was getting up there in age, and they really wanted it done. And I don't want to say it was the reason they hired Tom Rinaldi, but when they went and got Tom Rinaldi, these were some of the projects that they had in mind for him to do. I'm
absolutely stunned over the fact, because I don't like or dislike Tom Rinaldi. I joke around whenever I see Rinaldi, I got to turn the channel because he's going to make me cry. I think the fact that Rinaldi pulled off this documentary without speaking a whole hell of a lot, because Rinaldi can dominate his stories. I mean, that's what he's supposed to do. So for Rinaldi to write this and then to sit back speaks a lot of who he is.
And it shows really what a talented writer and producer he is, and that it doesn't have to be about him. This is about John Madden. But the reason I mentioned Richie Zients is that, one, if you saw the documentary, Richie, who was mentioned in it and interviewed in it, was instrumental in getting Madden to participate. And they thought if they couldn't get John involved while they were still going to do it, because they felt they owed it to him, but that it wouldn't be the same. And so Richie was instrumental in getting John to participate. And they got John 1 or 2 times to sit down for like an hour to an hour and a half at a time. And, whatever it is they did with him, they did it over a couple of different times. But the gift that Rinaldi gives Madden, they interviewed 39 people. And at the end of every interview, and Rinaldi, I believe, interviewed 38 of them in person and only 1 by Zoom. Rinaldi says to everybody, just look into the camera and say whatever it is you'd like to say to John. 30 or so seconds. So 39 people, 30 or so seconds, 20 minutes. Turned into over 50. And Rinaldi included that at the end of the documentary. So, and John did not see the documentary until Christmas Day.
Oh, wow.
He did not. All right. He wanted to make sure it was being made and all that, and he thought about seeing it beforehand, but I was told John did not see the documentary until Christmas Day, and he watched it with his family.
Ooh.
And he's got a wife of over 60 years and 2 sons and a handful of grandchildren. And so they watched this 90-minute documentary, and then there's the 50 minutes of what it is you mean to me from 39 people. And that's what I meant 10 minutes ago. How many of us, as it turns out, 72 hours later, how many of us can be told what it is you mean to me while it is you are still alive?
God, would mine be short? Last 30 seconds. If they got 100 people.
39 people.
No, I mean, if they got 100 people, it lasts 30 seconds.
And so for those of us, when we heard the news last night, the common theme was how grateful we were that this turned out to be such a gift that Rinaldi and Fox ended up giving the Madden family, as it turned out.
Absolutely. I want to get you on one more thing here when we come back from the break, because we are up against it. We come back, you kind of tease the story of how Richie was introduced to his wife by John Madden.
Great story. For those of you all have how it is you met your spouse or significant other stories. You figure out where this ranks amongst the stories that you have heard.
We'll have that on the other side, the starting 5. We'll talk a little Michigan football today, because there is a couple of semifinals going on in 2 days. Yeah, yada, yada, all that kind of stuff. Miller, the Florida Sports Network.
It's been a great start to the NFL season, and it's only getting better at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. DraftKings is putting new customers in the center of the action with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Get in on the action now. It's simple. Just pick your lineup, stay under the salary cap, and see how your team stacks up against the competition. Feel the NFL action like never before with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. And the best part is you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings app now and use code M&M. This week, new customers can get a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Enter code M&M to get a free shot at millions in total prizes with your first deposit. That's code M&M. Only at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
I could talk about Madden for hours because people have no idea how many different ways he changed what it is we see and hear now and take for granted. There was none of that 40 years ago.
Yeah, I could listen to you guys talk that long about Madden, or anybody for that matter.
You know, John Madden's the reason we have the spare headset in broadcast booths all over the country. I'll tell this story on air. Super Bowl 16. Summerall and Madden, their first Super Bowl together. The one in Detroit, Niners, Bengals. And they're doing the on camera. And they're standing there with their stick mics, holding them. And the headsets are on the desk. And Madden's leaning up against the desk. And Summerall, does the thing and hands his mic to the production assistant, turns around and get ready for the opening kickoff. John's put a headset on, and Pat looks, and the other one's crumpled because Madden sat on it.
Yep.
So Pat had to do like the first two series of the game, standing there holding a stick mic. All right, to the Super Bowl. And so it took him a while to find a headset, bring it up to the booth, plug it in, the whole deal. Mid-first quarter, Summerall's got a headset. And so hence the spare headset was born.
That's so great, though, because why wouldn't you have a spare headset? I mean, it just seems logical.
Right, totally.
But
right,
why would you have a spare headset?
Right.
Also seems like idiotic.
Right. What's going to happen to it?
Right. It's a headset.
Well, the fat analyst is going to sit on it and crush it. What?
Oh, Incarnate Word got their ass kicked last night.
Tell you what, they need to become Incarnate Paragraph. But
played more like Incarnate Sentence last night.
Go. Lou Holtz back in the day. Mary needs to give William a lot more help.
Yep. It is so funny. He was talking to Jake yesterday for a while, and I'm like, we were talking about the Georgia game, and I said, how great would it be if Cincinnati beat Alabama? And here's Jake. I would think, well, no, I want revenge. I want Georgia to play him again. He's like, man, and you could just hear it. People want that more than anything. That's App State beating Michigan to a lot of people. If that's a game at half. David, if that's a game at half, the numbers for the semifinal could be, well, it's New Year's Eve. They won't be. Well, Johnny Mac Summerall's been dead for a long time. Probably the main reason that a documentary done in the last little while didn't have a lot of Summerall. When did he die? Been dead for 10 years, hasn't he?
Yeah. I believe so.
I got you, Arch, but it wasn't that kind of giddiness. It was just a Bama hatred. And it's kind of like the SEC's sick of Alabama, too, if you know what I mean.
8 years ago.
Okay, I was pretty close.
April of 2013. By the way, Pat Summerall, born in Lake City.
Hey, we're supposed to be on there one of these days.
That's what I've heard. Canada Relief, I don't think it's the decision to pause as much as it is the decision to not play through.
Yeah, did you see that whole is there an actual talk of them moving the 7 teams to American cities? Or was that just a tweet that
I think it was just a tweet, but they did cancel all the Canada games for today.
Yeah, I know. And by the way, I love what Tim said, but there's no way we could do that here. That arena's not.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
22 minutes past the hour, top of the morning to you, Miller and Moulton. Florida Sports Network, the Florida Sports Network. Good show lined up for you. Angelique Chengelis next hour. We'll get the Michigan perspective of Michigan and Georgia coming up Friday night. Seth Everett will join us a little more than a couple hours from now. We'll talk some pucks with the longtime legendary voice of the Tampa Bay Lightning, Dave Mishkin, to join us at the top of the 8 o'clock hour. The dominant sports story, however, the passing yesterday morning on the West Coast, word coming out around 7 o'clock Eastern last night of John Madden at the age of 85, legendary coach, broadcaster, and, of course, the video game, which is simply known as Madden.
I mean, that's the thing. It's not called football. You don't say to your buddy, hey, you want to go play PlayStation football? Play some Madden? You know, the NHL is Chell. You want to play some Chell? You want to play some Madden? And that's what I mean. You know, Entourage was a show that I liked that was on, 10, 15 years ago. I remember in that, Turtle played in the Madden championship against, ended up playing like a 9-year-old kid who beat him in 4 seconds. But Madden was synonymous with that, really with the video game industry. That's what made it boom.
Apparently there are two, we always talk about the Mount Rushmore. Apparently the two right now that are head and shoulders above everybody else is FIFA and Madden.
In the sports world, yes.
Yes, that they're the only two that have sold 100 million or more. I believe 7 billion in revenue from Madden sales. So that and FIFA are the big two in the sports world in terms of video games.
And think about to this day, players get upset about what? Their Madden rating.
Yep.
But before we do that, you got a story to share.
So Richie Zients is the executive producer of the NFL on Fox. What is called the quote-unquote A-team. He does the games with Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. Rich Russo is the director. Richie Zients is the producer. Zients is in his mid-60s, grew up in New York, lives in Arizona now. And Richie got his start 40-plus years ago, ground floor at CBS. And basically, John Madden just took a liking to him. And he ended up on Madden's crew. And as he says, I got a football, master's thesis, indoctrination from John Madden. You couldn't have asked for anything better. And Richie will admit, to this day, he would still prefer to do a game the way they did it in the 80s and 90s. All right, he would. And he is very much into the game. So Richie and John become really good friends. And Richie's over John's house long time ago. And the phone rings, and John was busy, and he answers the phone. And there's a woman on the other end, and he goes, listen, I'm in the middle of something. Okay, I'll get back to you. Hold on a second. And he turns and he looks at Richie, and he goes, talk to her. I think you'd like her. And John leaves. John leaves. All right, and whatever he had to do, he left. And so Richie talked to this nice young lady for 15, 20 minutes. And, one thing led to another. Eventually, he talked to her again, got a phone number. They went out. Yeah, Madden was in their wedding. One of the groomsmen.
I would hope so.
In the wedding. And so, how'd you meet your wife? John Madden. Handed me the phone and said, I think you'd like her. Talk to her.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. It's not epic, but it's a nice. How'd you meet your wife? John Madden. Oh.
That's great.
Right. What? What did John Madden have to do with your wife? Well, there you go.
Talk to her.
I think you'd like her.
I think you'd like her.
Something like, I think you'd like her. I think you two would get along well. Okay. But at the time, Richie's just thinking, that we'd get along well so I could occupy 10, 15 minutes on the phone while he went and did whatever and came back. Okay. And then Richie realized after about 15 plus minutes, John was not coming back.
That is a terrific story.
So, but for those at Fox, Mark, I know that it's not only emotional, but they feel a tremendous sense of thank goodness we got that documentary done. I mean, Rinaldi worked 8 months on that thing. I mean, that thing started in the early spring.
Wow.
And they did a final interview like 10 days ago.
It does show you, by the way, how much tape that gets on the floor, the cutting room floor, if you will, because for 90 minutes, there had to be 100 hours of tape.
Yeah. Yeah, probably.
You figure 39 people, each of those were at least an hour. Each of them.
I mean, Lawrence Taylor says it in the documentary. He goes, yeah, the Giants call me. The NFL calls me. I don't do squat for anybody. They called me and they said, we're doing a Madden documentary. And LT said, tell me where and when.
I liked what Aikman was saying in one of your broadcasts when they started promoting it. And Troy started talking about Dallas becoming that version of the Cowboys. And when Madden showed up, it was like, oh, okay, we've made it.
Right, we've arrived. Well, and you grew up, even though you're not a hardcore Lions fan, you grew up in that part of the country. The Lions was the team that you had more of an allegiance to than anyone else. And the Lions had some competitive teams in the 80s. They could never make a dent, but they had a lot of teams that were 500 or just above. But, I was a Giants fan. In the first 6-7 years that I was a football fan, the Giants were lousy. I mean, the only chance I ever got to hear Summerall and then Madden was usually when they played the Cowboys, and they were doing the game because of the Cowboys.
Right. And the year, it was Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And the turducken, and, that turned into a fun little thing for the Detroit fan.
I'd never heard of turducken. Had you?
No.
I got to admit, it looked delicious. I was all in. They split it, and they showed you the many different layers. I'm like, hold on a second. There's 2 different kinds of meat, and there's stuffing, and it's all together. This is the greatest thing ever. Why are we not eating this?
I'm thinking in my head, I'm just kind of thinking of all the different Madden things and not just the turducken. When that's going on in the height of it, it was much like the Applebee's commercials that dominated college football this year. Madden didn't go away. No, you went to commercial break. It was an Ace Light.
It is a part of the documentary. If you haven't seen it, they run about 5 of the different ads that John was, hawking products for. Mark, fast actin, Tenactin.
Outstanding.
Ace Hardware, Miller Lite, Outback, which of course then ended up sponsoring the bus. They get into the story of how it is. The last flight John Madden ever took was 1980, coming back home from Tampa. And he vowed on the flight, if he landed, he'd never set foot on another airplane, and he never did. And at first, he started traveling via Amtrak, and they found out that Amtrak was too slow, not reliable enough to go coast to coast. And so they borrowed Dolly Parton's tour bus. Apparently, CBS had set up a shoot, and they really needed to be there. And so they set up Dolly Parton's tour bus, and Madden walked on it and said, we got to get ourselves one of these.
Well, and it's so funny because having lived in Nashville, broadcasting in Nashville, we were the first hockey team that were taking those sleeper buses. Why? because they were music world,
Right.
and that's how we kind of fell into that. And I can see it. I mean, you look now, CBS has their bus that they travel around in, and all these different, the game day bus and all these different buses that are out there all started from Madden realizing, oh, wow, I got a full king-size bed in the back of this sucker.
And the bus driver did that job for 24 years, by the way. And he said it was a great honor. All right. I love John, and I love taking care of him in this bus. And we went all over America.
Darn right.
Miller and Moulton, the starting five. Your thoughts, by the way, on John Madden. When you hear John Madden, do you think of the coach? Do you think of the broadcaster? Do you think of the video game? And I don't think, people want to chastise others now about everything. I mean, and quite frankly, John Madden could, you could hear his passing and go, oh, okay, and move on. There's no wrong answer. But he was a huge figure in the NFL. Huge for 50 years. He was still on the competition committee, He was on 2 active committees. Goodell consulted with him regularly.
So now Goodell doesn't have him. You think he'll go to Gruden?
That's a very good line, though.
Thank you.
I don't want that to pass without acknowledging the quality of work.
That's okay.
There.
I don't bring much to the table today, but that I can, snarky is still with me, David. Keyword to 21,000. FSN radio is your keyword. Text that to 21,000. We would love to hear your thoughts on the late John Madden right here on Miller on the Florida Sports Network. With Golf and Fitness Power Peel at Home training system. This complete body and swing trainer uses resistance band connection system to fix bad habits and ingrain a more consistent, powerful swing. The Power Peel system is powered by functional golf swing training technology. It trains both your swing and body at the same time. Simply make a few prescribed resistant band connections, and in a few steps on the peel, you'll swing better, feel better, and play better. Use it before your round of warm-up, as your daily fitness routine, or anytime you want to feel and train the swing you've always wanted. Pair the Power Peel with the Orange Whip Golf and Fitness at Home training technology, available with a monthly membership, and maximize your results with Golf Fitness X coach-led programs that take less than 20 minutes a day. Buy the Power Peel training bundle now for 4 interest-free payments of $115 by going to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10. That's code Miller10 to save $45. Go to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10 to save $45 and play better golf. Go to orangewhipgolf.com. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Or heard of him and Costas, in the LA Coliseum doing
Wow.
a demo of whatever preseason game they were doing. He's funny to talk about Costas. He's like, I thought he was like a bellhop. Right? Next thing you know, I'm sitting there and he's talking and he opens his mouth. I go, damn, this guy's pretty good.
God, that's funny. So Sheen and Shepard are taking off a whole week before the college. I mean, I know we did too, but wow. I can't believe we did. I can't believe they let us.
So they're not on this week at all?
I don't.
Well, I have no idea. I don't listen.
I don't either, but just based on the fact that nothing's moved in the studio once.
Oh.
No one's been in here.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm going by. I've left the army guy down here on I've left a few things to see if.
There you go. Look at
It's
you.
the paper in the door trick.
Little passive aggressive right there. Just want to see. Little Columbo there, leaving little cues.
Yes.
Right. See if the door's been moved.
Carson Wentz and virus protocol. Wonderful.
Well, the Colts all but said we've been expecting this all year. I mean, their translation was, listen, the dumb shit didn't get vaccinated. We knew he was going to test positive for COVID at some point. We're just grateful now they reduced it from 10 days to 5 days. Maybe he'll actually be able to play Sunday. apparently, Mark, the reason these games are postponed is because the NHL does not want games played before no fans.
Yeah. That's what they're saying.
Belichick had a really funny line in the documentary.
Did you watch it in the booth?
Well, I tried to pick up pieces, but I stayed up last night. I was going to go to bed, and then he died, and I immediately turned on NFL Network, but then I turned on FS1 and thought, man, they got to rerun this documentary. And sure enough, they were running a crawl saying 9 o'clock.
How about this? That work for you?
Jeez.
There.
Oh, my God.
Is that better? How's that?
Oh, jeez.
That work for you, Doug? They might come back on Monday and see Miller and Moulton banners all in this place.
I doubt it.
The only reason he doubts is because I won't pay for it myself.
Right. I was going to say they'd have to be made.
I could get them made. Signs in a day. If they would trade with me, I'd do it.
That'd be hysterical. It really would be.
If one of you does graphics and your company wants to trade it out, because I don't have any money and I'm not spending any money, I'm done. Look at Doug watching it. Doug, the only person watching on YouTube right now.
Morning, Doug. Twitch is the place to be. It's the only place where we make 17 cents.
We make a little more than that.
I think it's per person.
We're almost up to like a tank of gas, I think, now we get a month.
Come on.
No, seriously. It's like $100 and some odd a month.
Gas is up to like $3.30 a gallon,
Down to $3.19.
By the way, it's $4.70 a gallon in California.
Right.
$4.70 a gallon.
Maybe some taxes there on gasoline.
Holy mackerel.
And the state's still broke.
It's funny. Their economy is actually kicking it. It's funny. They're losing all these businesses and they're thriving all at the same time.
Yeah, and their cities are falling apart.
It's a strange dichotomy as to what's going on in California.
I mean, the cities are dying. San Francisco is a mess. A mess.
Yeah, well.
When you allow people to steal,
Well, that's a problem.
Basically, he said, was it $790 or whatever it is? And they're not going to bother.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
As we approach 21 minutes before the hour, top of the morning to you, Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, Angelique Chengelis in less than an hour as we begin to look ahead. We began yesterday with Mo Egger talking about the Bearcats and their chances as 2-touchdown dogs against Alabama. Well, Angelique, we'll talk about the Michigan Wolverines, a full touchdown and then some dog against Georgia coming up in less than an hour.
And maybe a touch of bear from Angelique. She is a proud Cincinnati native.
Look at that.
And I would be curious just from her perspective on the Bearcats playing. She covers Michigan. She's from Cincinnati. I think she is a Bearcat alum.
Angelique Chengelis in a little less than an hour. Dave Mishkin, legendary voice of the Lightning, to join us at the top of the 8 o'clock hour. Seth Everett in 2 hours' time. But right now it is time for
The Starting Five. 5 stories you need to know. It's the Starting Five on Miller and Moulton. Here's number 1.
85-year-old John Madden passed away yesterday morning at his home in the Bay Area. He was 85 years old. Do you know he's still the all-time winningest Raiders coach? And he coached just 10 years. He was the youngest head coach at the time in league history at the age of 32 when he got the gig. Retired at 42. He said he was burnt out, couldn't handle the losses anymore. And he looked right into the camera and he said, I will never coach again. And he didn't. Then he went to work for all 4 of the major networks. And let's be brutally honest, there would not be a Fox if it wasn't in part because of John Madden. Yes, they got the NFL, but they wouldn't have had any credibility if Summerall and Madden hadn't agreed to leave CBS and go with them. And then, of course, there is the video game, which started late 80s? The video game? Hasn't it been around like 88, 89?
88. 88, David.
And that, along with FIFA, are the 2 best-selling sports video games of all time with sales of over 100 million. John Madden, elected into the Pro Football Hall of Fame 15 years ago. And as many people said when they announced that John Madden had been elected to the Hall of Fame, a lot of people looked at one another and said, what, he wasn't already in?
That you are right there. By the way, it was John Madden football first in 1988. EA Sports bought the company and started doing annual versions in 99 or 90 rather. And then in 93 changed it to Madden NFL.
Well, and also he was the first to do the all Madden team, and the documentary on Fox had many a player talk about, listen, the Pro Bowl was nice, but you really wanted to be all Madden. Because the Pro Bowl can be a popularity contest, but all Madden said you were tough. If you made all Madden, you were tough. Let me ask you this. How would we regard Brett Favre if not for John Madden?
Can I please get Caliendo's number to answer all these questions? All I'm thinking about is when Favre retired and our former producer, John Cassio, called Caliendo, who was a frequent guest, not a regular guest, but a frequent guest on the show at that time.
Right.
And he basically said, you're Fort Myers. I don't have time for you, but don't answer your phone when I call you back. I'll give you something. And he did 90 seconds of a
Madden calling and leaving a message on an answering machine, crying over Brett Favre retiring.
And returned the call, just stop 4.
Right. If you want to call me back, just hit star 4.
Star 4.
But I say that because, Brett Favre, when they showed the side-by-side graphic this past Christmas Day, Aaron Rodgers about to pass Brett Favre, most touchdown passes in Packers history, and you see that Rodgers has thrown 1/3 the interceptions that Favre did. I mean, they have the same number of touchdown passes. They played virtually the same amount of time. And one guy's got 260 interceptions, and the other guy's got like 90. And I will say, I always thought that Madden helped create and maintain the legacy that is Brett Favre. Because even when he started to, he had 3-5 years there where he was a TD to interception ratio of damn near 1-to-1, and he was making as many big mistakes as he was big throws. And John Madden still thought, yeah, there's nothing better than watching this guy play football.
Well, I'll go back to the answer you just gave. And a lot of this will sound very cliche, but I think John Madden liked the toughness of Brett Favre. I mean, at the end of the day, I think he liked the competitiveness, that he'd stick his nose in there. And that's the type of guy that he preferred. I think he preferred the Stabler to a Staubach, if you will. I just think that was his mentality. And I think he saw a lot. To me, I think he saw a lot of Stabler in Brett Favre.
Favre said they hardly ever talked football. All the times that they crossed paths, production meetings beforehand or before the game on the field, Favre said, we rarely ever talked football. He was always asking about my family. That's why he threw in all my family references, mentioning my uncles by name and this, that, and the other thing. He goes, that was just the relationship that we had. John Madden, 85 years old. Carson Wentz tested positive for COVID yesterday. Now, before yesterday, that would have meant he would have missed the next 10 days because Carson Wentz is unvaccinated. But yesterday, the NFL and the NFLPA agreed to reduce the isolation time for both those vaccinated and unvaccinated to just 5 days. they claim they're taking the lead from the CDC and that this strain, while highly contagious, is weaker. And then therefore, people don't have to be isolated as long.
We're just figuring that.
Well, it's a good thing for the Indianapolis Colts because it means there is a chance that Carson Wentz can play Sunday when the Colts host the Raiders in what is a big game, as both teams are fighting for the playoffs. If Wentz can't go, we're talking Sam Ellinger. And apparently calls have already been made to Phillip Rivers going, hey, you around if we needed you in a pinch? Because it was also found out last week that the Saints called Drew Brees. And Brees thought about it and then sent a video back to them of him golfing, which the Saints took to be, well, I guess we got our answer. I guess that's a no. Bruce Arians came down with COVID yesterday, and obviously he in the age bracket where this to be taken far more seriously. Bruce will isolate and keep our fingers crossed and hope that he comes out of this in however many days in good shape. The Jaguars announced yesterday that the first two people they're going to interview for their head coaching vacancy are Doug Peterson and Jim Caldwell, which makes sense. Both offensive guys, both former head coaches, both have taken their teams to the Super Bowl. Peterson winning it, Caldwell losing his Super Bowl with the Colts. I mean, they got the two best resumes on the open market, right?
Absolutely.
Apparently, the Jags have also asked for permission to interview both of the Cowboys coordinators, Kellen Moore and Dan Quinn. I got to admit, I am not interested in the Jags hiring a first-time head coach.
If it happens, I would be incredibly disappointed in what they're doing. They need stability. We keep saying it. They need an adult.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. College football news. Mark, I don't know if you caught this, but the Holiday Bowl was supposed to take place yesterday between UCLA and NC State. And literally, as NC State is about ready to leave their hotel and go to the game, UCLA calls and goes, yeah, we're out. 4 hours before kickoff, they said, we got too much COVID. A few people pointed out, didn't you guys go to SeaWorld yesterday or 2 days ago? I mean, seriously? And it has been pointed out, both Ohio State and Utah have shown up for the Rose Bowl, and they're seeing the sights. I mean,
Beef Bowl happened yet? It's my favorite part of the Rose Bowl.
Listen, if they're going to keep testing,
they're going to keep getting positive tests.
Then I think you got to stay in your room. All right? I mean, you and I don't think they should be testing the 18 to 22-year-olds. But if they're going to keep testing, then you need to stay in your room if you want the game to take place. I mean, that's just a fact. This is apparently very contagious. Of course, it is interesting. Any COVID cases with Alabama, Cincinnati, Georgia?
No. In fact, I told you yesterday, David, that Alabama has really amped up the protocols. And by amping up the protocols, I mean that means they're not testing at all.
Right. That means they tighten the security around the players so that the people with the testers can't get to them.
Right.
That's what they mean by the bowl games. However, 4 of them did take place yesterday. Houston beat Auburn in the Birmingham Bowl. Air Force beat Louisville in the First Responder Bowl. In the Liberty Bowl, Texas Tech shut Mike Leach up.
Boy, did they ever.
And Mississippi State 34-7. And Minnesota won the Guaranteed Rate Bowl 18-6 over West Virginia. I'm just throwing this out there. The AAC and the Big Ten right now are combined 4-0 in the bowl games. And the SEC is 0-4. What do we have in the two semifinals? We have an AAC team and a Big Ten team taking on 2 SEC teams. Now, I know no SEC fans will acknowledge these 4 games. You know, their teams didn't care.
Right.
And, there's no bowl losses ever count. I said no bowl losses ever count. But right now, the SEC is 0-4 in the bowls. And, Mark, it took until 2 Power Fives were playing each other to have a Power 5 school win a bowl game. Power 5 schools were 0 for the bowls until Texas Tech beat Mississippi State and Minnesota beat West Virginia. The group of fives had been kicking a little you-know-what. College hoops, only 13 of the 29 games that were scheduled to take place yesterday took place. The game of the night was in the ACC. Notre Dame edged Pitt 68-67. All 7 NBA games went on as scheduled last night. Heat beat Washington 119-112. Milwaukee over Orlando 127-110. Knicks went into Minnesota and beat a glorified G League Timberwolves team 96-88. Denver had a 24-point lead at the half and held off Golden State 89-86. And I will say, the Cavs are off to a great start. They're in the upper echelon of the East. They had a 23-point lead in New Orleans last night and lost. That's a young team. I'd be curious to see how they handle that in the ensuing games for the Cavs. Good night in the NBA last night. Not only all 7 games taking place, but 6 of the 7 decided by single digits. 3 hockey games. The over was the play, Mark. Lightning beat Montreal 5-4 in overtime. Vegas doubled up the Kings 6-3. And San Jose and Arizona had 14 regulation goals before the Sharks won in a shootout 8-7. What is this, the old Smythe?
That's so much fun calling those games.
The NHL announced they're postponing 9 more games, all of them involving Canadian teams.
What, David?
Because apparently those games would be played before no fans. And the league said, no, we're not going to do that again. Teams need the money. We're not going to go through this again. So if you can't have fans in your building, then we ain't playing. And right now, apparently, that's a Canadian thing. It's not a U.S. thing. I don't know how much longer this can go, Mark. They canceled games through, I think, Monday, January 10th.
They've got to find homes for these teams, or they got to start playing games on the road now and just flip-flopping this. You can't do this. You're screwing up a season here, Gary.
Well, remember, they do have now nearly 3 weeks in February that have opened up. And as we've talked about, there have to be some arenas somewhere in which these teams and these games can be played. I mean, that is the only good thing, Mark. They do have like an 18-day window coming up in February where
100%, but you cannot keep canceling games between now and February because that 3 weeks won't be enough. You're not going to play every day, for crying out loud. I mean, these teams are getting in the area of 5-7 games missed.
And by the way, the World Junior Tournament's being affected by COVID. The U.S. had to forfeit a game last night.
Because the game's being played in Canada. If they were played in a country that actually wanted to participate in sports, this may not have happened.
2 members of the U.S. hockey team tested positive for COVID. They had to forfeit the game.
It's a joke.
10% of the team tested positive.
You just keep moving the goalpost, gang.
We're the defending we're the defending champions in the World Juniors, which north of the border, by the way, is the second biggest sporting event in the world. And that is not an exaggeration. Next to the Stanley Cup, the World Junior is the second biggest sporting event in that country.
I've been watching quite a bit of it.
See? Look at you.
NHL Network, David.
Channeling your inner Canuck right there.
And it's all Canadian broadcasting, too.
And that, Mark, was...
That was the Starting 5 every weekday morning at this time on Miller and Moulton.
21,000 or word to 21,000. FSN Radio, your thoughts on the passing of John Madden. We'll talk a little Michigan football coming up in the next hour as well, right here. Miller and Moulton, so much for listening exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled, marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the chicken bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today.
The Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, presented by RP Funding, roars through the streets of beautiful downtown St. Petersburg, February 25th to the 27th. 3-day tickets are on sale now at gpstpete.com. It's fast, fun, family entertainment jam-packed into 3 days. The weekend is highlighted by the NTT IndyCar Series race taking the green flag on Sunday afternoon. It all happens at the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, presented by RP Funding, February 25th to the 27th. Get your tickets at gpstpete.com to secure the best seats.
It's been a great start to the NFL season, and it's only getting better at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. DraftKings is putting new customers in the center of the action with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Get in on the action now. It's simple. Just pick your lineup, stay under the salary cap, and see how your team stacks up against the competition. Feel the NFL action like never before with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. And the best part is you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings app now and use code M&M. This week, new customers can get a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Enter code M&M to get a free shot at millions in total prizes with your first deposit. That's code M&M, only at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
It's a hell of a week to take off.
That's what I'm saying. I can't believe that John allowed us to. Like, I'm not joking.
Well,
By the way, you know that shirt's ripped that you're wearing
it is.
in the armpit.
Oh, really?
Lower.
Right there.
Lower. Well, you had two then.
Oh, okay.
Because you got one right
Oh, okay.
here.
Throw it out.
I forgot to tell you when you wore it last time. Because I know you sometimes wear it when you're flying. So I will say, Michigan apparently got the big center from Virginia that transferred. He was up for the whatever the award is for the best center in college football.
Oh,
Transferred to Michigan.
The Remington there.
Yeah,
The former Nebraska guy, Dan
Yeah.
Remington.
he transferred to Michigan. Picked Michigan over Clemson. I think it's worth noting that at least Clemson was in the hunt for a big transfer.
Yeah.
Our shaved head's going to be the look of 2022.
Yeah, Johnny Yo, the Pelicans are without Zion. Okay. I mean, Johnny, everybody's missing guys right now. Fact of the matter is they were up 23, they lost. Take it easy. Don't take it personally. Come on. When you were up 23 last night, you thought you were going to win.
Philly never got his vacation, the poor kid. Mom got sick, and then he got sick.
Religious today. What the hell? Everybody.
Just messing. You just said, I think it was a holy that came in there.
Oh,
Just having a little fun.
oh, holy morning.
Wow, I don't know if guys are going to like that. If 2022 is the year of chicks shaving their heads.
We're having a Miley Cyrus year.
It literally was like half trending on Twitter. Is 2022 the year of the shaved head? Demi, what's her name there? Lovato. She shaved hers, and then some other person I don't know that's a singer. One name. I took it off. I don't know.
When you say Demi Lovato, you have to say they shaved their head.
Right. She goes by they. That's right.
It was a dad joke. I got to admit.
Steve Young tweeted out 5 hours ago Do you comb your hair with a pork chop? First words Madden never spoke to me when I met him on the Madden Cruiser.
That's fantastic. In the documentary, Madden addresses his appearance and said, some guy described me as an unmade bed. And I was supposed to be offended, but the more I thought about it, I thought that was
pretty accurate.
Onto something.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Second hour of Miller and Moulton on this hump day. Thanks so much for being with us. The final Wednesday of 2021. A reminder, tomorrow's our last show of the week. We will not be on the air on Friday, which is New Year's Eve. A jam-packed guest, however. Pat Kerwin makes another appearance tomorrow. Bud Elliott will be on the show tomorrow.
Whew, look at that.
We expect to talk to somebody about the Georgia Bulldogs tomorrow as we continue our previews of the college football semifinals. We'll talk a little Michigan in 30 or so minutes with Angelique Chengelis, who covers the Wolverines. And as you mentioned, Mark, we believe is also a Bearcat alum.
Pretty sure.
So we'll get a little touch of that perspective.
The fan side. I mean, not the side, the fandom. And I'm fascinated by that because this has got to be such a thrill. As much as I beat up on the UCF fan constantly, but particularly a couple years ago, how geeked they would have been to be in this moment. I mean, just that whole fan base. It's one thing. The Michigan fan base is proud, but they believe they should have been in this game. It bothers them. It's not the excitement of the first time. It's the damn so long.
Well, and the similarities are there too, because Cincinnati went 9-0 last year and lost a close bowl game to Georgia. But UCF in 2017 went undefeated and then was 12-0 the next year. They won 25 in a row. And then Moulton got hurt late in the 2018 season, and they ended up losing the Fiesta Bowl, I believe it was, to LSU in a good, exciting game. But, I mean, this is such, Cincinnati backed it up, if you will. They had one terrific season and backed it up with a donut. Well, UCF had an even better season and then backed it up with another donut. Now, if UCF had been given this opportunity in 2018, unfortunately for them, they would have entered the playoff without Mackenzie Milton. And they likely would have been destroyed. But this was the opportunity denied UCF that many people felt they'd earned. And when the semifinals happened that year, and one of them, again, was not competitive, it's like, man, you sure we shouldn't have some new blood as the four? I mean, they can get blown out too, I mean, remember, it was 2 years ago today that LSU beat Oklahoma by 5 touchdowns.
What I'm worried about, and I probably shouldn't be because we're going to go to 12 teams at some point here. If Alabama does to Cincinnati what LSU did to Oklahoma, the Big 12 was never penalized for Oklahoma getting blown out in these games.
No.
In fact, you could argue they were rewarded because we could never figure out why the committee, and before that, the computers had this with the Big 12 conference.
But boy, did it.
It did. And the committee has kept on keeping on. Whatever numbers are, whatever numbers that they put together do wonders for the Big 12.
This was the first time that we got the sense that the committee had turned on the Big 12. Remember, Oklahoma was undefeated for a long time, and they were multiple spots behind Cincinnati. And then even Oklahoma State and Baylor were being kept at a distance from Cincinnati. And we're like, boy, but at the very end.
But to yourself, if Oklahoma State wins the Big 12 championship, they're in this playoff.
I know you contend, and we'll never know. It's the great hypothetical.
But they were set.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt. The goal line stand, let me tell you, if you're a Cincinnati fan, you should be a Dave Aranda Baylor Bear fan for years.
Yeah, you should be sending Christmas cards to the Baylor head coach and the Baylor defensive coordinator and anybody you want to from Baylor.
Thanks, guys. Thanks.
But the worry is, if Alabama does to Cincinnati what happened to Oklahoma several times in this, will that be the end of the group of 5? Will they just pat them on the head and say, here was your one chance? I hope.
Well, once again, I think it depends on the playoff format that in 2 weeks they are supposedly going to finalize.
And I guess I'm just saying for the rest of time that we have 4 in the playoffs, because when it expands, the Big 12 gets Cincinnati, gets really the best of the AAC. So it's a moot point once we expand.
And Mark, my guess is since the elite group of 5 teams this year, we think are all going to be in the Big 12, not next year, but probably by 2023. It doesn't give a whole lot of time for the group of 5 teams not named UCF, Cincinnati, Houston to build themselves up to a point where they are taking this seriously. You know, Cincinnati, it took a little time, and Cincinnati piggybacked off of UCF. Cincinnati, my hope is somebody at Cincinnati has tipped their cap to UCF and said, you know, you guys blazed the path for us here. We followed in your footsteps. We held up our end of the deal, but you guys took the slings and arrows. You guys got left on the outside looking in, but you guys did a lot of the dirty work, and we were able to just kind of draft on you and let a couple more years go by, and then we just kind of moved to the side and passed you and waved at the starter there and said, hey, look at us. We're right here.
You know, when you were saying that, I started thinking, because I think the SEC fan has turned on Alabama. Like they chant SEC, SEC, SEC. I don't think they feel that way about Alabama anymore. I think quietly they don't like Alabama at all, and they wouldn't be bothered at all by Alabama losing.
Wow. Do you want to somehow, some way? Because I was thinking a couple different poll questions today. One is, do you think of Madden as a coach,
that's the question,
as a broadcaster
or the video game, or all of the above? Because for certain people, it isn't all of the above. I was thinking the same thing for a question, but I brought that up because I do want to ask the UCF fan out there. Are you envious or jealous of Cincinnati? Because your fan base had a lot a couple of years ago. Now, I think, to me, if I were a UCF fan, I would be rooting my ass off for Cincinnati. I really, truly would.
I would take great pride in being in the game. I would say we're actually partly responsible.
And too. And I'm wondering if the UCF fan feels that way. If maybe after the bitterness of Cincinnati getting in and going, damn it, that should have been us a couple of years ago, did you then sit back and have pride? You've said throughout our show today, you know all the main players at Fox from working with the A Crew, that there was a tremendous sense of relief and gratefulness to get this documentary out before the passing of John Madden. I would sense, if it were me, I'd have the same bit of pride if I were a UCF fan about Cincinnati getting in. But I'm not a UCF fan, and I don't know how they feel about this. So those are just a couple of things I was thinking. SEC fan, you can text us. It's just a phone number. Not going to send it to the SEC offices. But Gator fan, deep down, do you want Alabama to get their ass kicked? I'm just curious. Or are you still on your hill chanting, I hate. Okay. How does that work?
0-4 in the bowls, by the way, the SEC. 0-4 in the bowl so far.
Now, Texas Tech fans should have been chanting SEC yesterday. Now, that would have been funny.
Yes, they should have.
Because obviously all the irony with the Texas and Oklahoma leaving, like that would have been funny.
Yeah.
It was a Texas Tech student.
Well, plus Texas A&M also dropped out of their Gator Bowl. So if you're Texas Tech, you're like, so let me get this straight. A&M drops out of the bowls. Texas isn't even bowl eligible.
Right.
SMU had their bowl game canceled. Okay. I mean, hell, we're going to declare a state championship here.
You were Houston.
Right. Miller and Moulton. Angelique Chengelis coming up in about 25 minutes time. We'll get a preview on the Michigan-Georgia national semifinal. But when we come back, your thoughts on the passing of John Madden. Do you look at him as a coach, as a broadcaster, or when you hear John Madden, do you think the video game? And also just your thoughts on his passing, your remembrances. Was he as big a deal to you on the sport that has become, to call the NFL the 800-pound gorilla is to insult 800-pound gorillas, because they're now more like 1,800-pound gorillas. And John Madden, many of us think, is a big part of the NFL becoming as big of an industry as it is today. Your thoughts on the passing of John Madden on the other side. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network.
Mark Miller for Orange Whip Golf and Fitness Power Peel at Home Training System. This complete body and swing trainer uses resistance band connection system to fix bad habits and ingrain a more consistent, powerful swing. The Power Peel system is powered by functional golf swing training technology. It trains both your swing and body at the same time. Simply make a few prescribed resistant band connections, and in a few steps on the peel, you'll swing better, feel better, and play better. Use it before your round of warm-up, as your daily fitness routine, or anytime you want to feel and train the swing you've always wanted. Pair the Power Peel with the Orange Whip Golf and Fitness at Home training technology, available with a monthly membership, and maximize your results with Golf Fitness X coach-led programs that take less than 20 minutes a day. Buy the Power Peel training bundle now for 4 interest-free payments of $115 by going to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10. That's code Miller10 to save $45. Go to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10 to save $45 and play better golf. Go to orangewhipgolf.com. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. I laughed. One guy says, Madden is simply the grand poobah. He is the second greatest Raider. And I said, so I'm guessing you mean Al's number one? And he just typed back, correct. Okay. Jed, Gator fan, rooting for a UM Cincinnati championship. There you go. That's exactly what you should be rooting for.
You see Samuel Joel, the Mississippi State alum, want Bama to lose.
Thank you. Our shaved head's going to be the look of 2022. I would not want to be in my 20s if there's a bunch of bald women running around. That's just weird. Although I think the gal that's on ESPN with the shaved head is really attractive, but just would be weird. Right? Okay.
Like bald heads and hairy pits, like the worst. Got to be
There you now. Don't, let's shave. We're gonna shave. Let's just shave everything here, okay? But I'm just like going like this, going, you know, do you think it's Steve Harvey instead? I think I'm Johnny Mac, and I would love to go cue ball once.
If I went cue ball, okay, it would be frightening. I'd be probably taken down and imprisoned as a threat to society at large.
Johnny, I had my great-grandmother made it to in 97, and my great-great-grandmother made it to 101. There is a picture that exists of me, my mother, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, and my great-great-grandmother. And there's like almost 100 years between she and I when that picture was taken. Hey, thanks for the new follows. The two of you that did, appreciate it. Klecko, you may be right. I mean, there was a time that Morgana was basically allowed to go give the kiss. I remember the George Brett more than anything.
And the Nolan Ryan. I remember the Nolan Ryan.
The person who I think in Twitch said it, or maybe it was of the Madden black and white shot with the thin tie. I'm with you. It's one of the more epic shots. The short sleeve shirt, the thin tie.
He said he was superstitious and he didn't have a lot of clothes. So if he wore something and they won, then that's what he wore until they lost. Peter King printed. It's obviously online at si.com, I think. Maybe it's at his site. His article, he spent a week on the Madden Cruiser back in 89. And so he sent that article out again. It's a good read. He's got a really good lead. He says, John Madden is living the life we all want to live. He sleeps as long as he wants, and he gets up and he wears whatever clothes he wants.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
$17 past the hour. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, the Florida Sports Network. Angelique Chengelis in about 20 minutes' time. We'll preview the Michigan-Georgia semifinal. SEC 0-4 in the bowl games, by the way. Is Alabama and Georgia maybe a little overrated? That the conference was overrated? And
the conference was overrated this year. Doesn't mean that Alabama and Georgia might not still win the semifinal games, but the conference was overrated from a standpoint of how they delivered. Now, the other part of that is when we watch the draft in a couple of months, David, it's going to be a bunch of SEC guys going in the first round. They'll lead everybody in draft picks and all of those things. But you still got to execute.
I also think we're going to see more and more of this in the future. That if you're not at the very, very top of the echelon, that I think you can get spit up and churned out. I think the SEC is going to start doing it to each other. And I think that whether it's the handful of elite group of 5 schools and or some of the schools in this conference realignment that we think is going to happen in the next 2 to 3 years, Mark, I think college football is going to start looking a lot more like the NFL.
Yes, particularly with the SEC jumping to 2 more teams. There's not a doubt. And the talent pool and the transfer portal changes that immensely. So when you're not playing and you can just say, I'm going, and it is so funny. Look, I don't know. My verdict on the transfer portal is still not out. I'm happy with my alma mater because it worked so well this year. I love kids being able to do what they want. It doesn't bother me a bit.
But it is messy.
It's messy, and it bothers people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you and I are at the age where we're not sure if we like it or don't like it, but we're not screaming. You get a little older than us. You know, I spend time with my golfing buddies. They're all older than me. And most of them are college football fans and college fans. They hate it. They think it's chicken blank. They think it's not working hard. It's the whole work ethic thing. And I say that because when teams start getting spit up and chewed out because they lose players or whatever, how will it affect the fandom at some point, David?
Well, we tried to bring that up Gary Danielson said many, many years ago on this show that there is an intangible connection between the college football fan and the sport and their teams. And that the more you professionalize it, the more that you chip away at that connection. The college fan feels differently about their team on Saturday than they do about their team on Sunday. And the more that Saturdays begin to resemble Sundays, he contended then, and we're trying to make the point now, we don't necessarily think it's a good thing for the sport as a whole. Now, we have contended we were going to get here. We're just going to have to suck it up and deal with it. It's going to be messy for 2, 3, 5 years. Let's let it play itself out, one go around, and then let's see if we need to make any changes. So Miller and Moulton are sitting back, and we're just taking it all in because we said we were going to. And we said this is going to be messy. All the stuff that was behind the scenes that you didn't know about is going to come out in the open now. There's a reason that we don't show you how the sausage is made in most cases. And now you are getting to see how the sausage is made.
And with that being said, I was reading something to David before the show that I'd seen this Gator incentive or whatever they have going on for their NIL. I love what they're doing. I mean, they've basically started a fund that's the Gator Collective. It started 118 days ago. They have 1,318 members. They're adding a little over 11 members a day. They get $20 a month per member. Right now, it's generating $26,000 a month. And fans pay a monthly fee for access to exclusive interviews, raffles for autographed items, and the athletes who participate get paid for their part. This is brilliant to me. It's one thing when Kentucky went and got their big boy boosters to fork over a few $1 million to start their own NIL fund.
Right.
Texas did the same thing. This, to me, is even better. It's one thing for the Bull Gators, the high level of contributors to Florida Gator athletics. It's one thing for them to provide the money for the NIL. The rich people just handing their money out. To me, it's a whole nother when the face. I'm a Gator fan. I spend my $240 a year to make sure that player gets paid. That is ownership. That's Green Bay Packer stock to me, David.
Right. Hey, that cornerback, that's mine right there. That's my guy.
I just, the way this, I'm really interested to see how this works out. This Gator Collective is fascinating to me, David.
Text FSN Radio to 21,000, FSN Radio to 21,000. We're taking all of your comments about two topics in particular. The passing of John Madden. What is it that he meant to you? And when you hear John Madden, do you think the coach? Do you think the broadcaster? Do you think the video game?
And I'll get that up as our poll question here shortly. A lot of people just saying similar things on the text line today. I remember the Madden bus. He didn't like to fly, that he was just an all-around good guy and loved watching games with him and Summerall calling.
The impact of Summerall and Madden, Fox felt they had to have them. Even though they outbid CBS for the rights to the games, all right, if they didn't get Summerall and Madden to broadcast their games, they weren't going to be taken seriously. In fact, they thought deep down the NFL would pull the plug. They thought if they didn't get Summerall and Madden, that basically during year one, the NFL would come in and go, we made a mistake. Sorry, we'll give you all your money back. We're going back to CBS. Now, granted, all the networks were calling Summerall and Madden at that time. Pat did not want to leave CBS. Pat did the Masters. Pat did the U.S. Open. Pat loved the U.S.
Pat
Open.
loved the U.S. Open.
It pained him. CBS played hardball with him. CBS said, oh, no. You have to choose. And he went with the NFL. And that's why I believe the 94 Masters is the last event that Pat Summerall broadcast for CBS Sports. Maybe he did some summer golf, but after the 94 Masters, he had to move on to Fox. And then the technological advances, for those in the industry, Madden is a giant figure. regarded as the best analyst in the history of sports television. Whether he is or not, he's regarded that way. But the other thing that he did was he changed how television broadcasts were done. He brought more football to a football broadcast. And it's detailed in the documentary that Madden said one of the reasons why I didn't want to go into broadcasting was I didn't hold it in high regard. When I would sit home and watch Monday Night Football, like he thought Howard Cosell and the Monday Night Football broadcast was a joke. A joke. All right. And that there's a Madden told an anecdote in which they played a game, I think in Buffalo, and they lost to O.J. Simpson and the Bills. And after the game in the tunnel, Howard said, "John, tough loss, great show." And Madden was like, "Show? It's my life. It's my livelihood here." And so he did not hold the broadcasters in high regard. He didn't think they talked football. And his thing with the networks were, if we're going to do this, I got to be able to coach. I got to be able to teach. I was a teacher. Before I got into coaching, I was a teacher. The 1 year in between coaching and broadcasting, I went back to Cal and I taught a class. I need to be able to talk football, educate people about football. And for those of us of a certain age, Mark, I don't know what you remember. Madden was the first one for me who could tell where the penalty was on the field and who it was on by what official threw the flag.
Really, and holding more than any of them. For me, that was the first thing I learned. Well, that's a holding call.
He threw it. It's on the tight end. It's either on the tight end or the linebacker, but it's let's go. And they would show the replay. And sure enough, they'd announce it's on the linebacker, number 57. And Madden go, yeah, so-and-so through the official. His responsibility is the tight end. Look, yep, he held him up right here.
And Judge Smales in the Twitch chat room and many others have said his use of the telestrator, and I like your version of it there, Judge, was epic. Yes, it was.
He joked about it in the documentary, which, by the way, will re-air tonight twice on FS1. And I believe, if not tonight, tomorrow is going to get another play on Big Fox. Check your local listings.
Oh, you don't have Thursday Night Football. Why don't you give them Madden in the football slot?
I think they are. I think Thursday at 8 o'clock, you're going to get the Madden documentary on Fox. But tonight, you're going to get it shown back-to-back from 9 to midnight on FS1. It's 90 minutes.
So set your DVRs. Recording devices properly.
And it's good. I mean, I don't think it was great. I think it was very good. And there's just a lot of video that we've never seen. To me, Mark, it's like the Jordan Bulls documentary. We hadn't seen most of that footage before. All that behind-the-scenes stuff. I mean, they've got Madden at production meetings when he was at CBS in the 80s. It's just stuff we have not seen that some people I think will love, like a nerd like me, and others will just kind of go, okay. There were not production meetings, by the way, before television broadcasts, before John Madden. And
really?
Yes, there were not. No, there were not production meetings before John Madden.
And he insisted on?
Yeah. And he basically sat everybody down and politely said, "You guys don't know anything about football. We need to go to class. We need to talk this game." Now, I will say there are people in the industry. These production meetings lasted up to 6 hours. 6 hours. I mean, producer, director, Summerall, others. I mean, it at times there's a story. There is a story, and I have heard more people nod their head yes than nod their head no about it. But that this is how serious Madden was about the broadcast. That Saturday night he would sit in the hotel lobby. Okay, and he would keep track of how late people came in, whether or not certain key people were out partying. And now, oh yeah, people on the team. Yeah. Oh yeah. That's how serious John took the broadcast. Okay.
I couldn't have worked for him.
No kidding. All right. And you got to remember, it's John Madden sitting in the hotel lobby. So it's not like he's not drawing attention. I mean, everybody's coming up to him. And John's sitting in which he can see the door. Because he wants to see who's coming in and who's coming out and at what hour they're doing it.
Right. And it's not like a team where, David, I worked for teams. There are other hotel doors. As a broadcaster, I would be called every once in a while saying, Millsy, need you to go slide, open that stair door on the right side. Gotcha. Not a problem.
Vern was.
But you wouldn't think you're not
right.
worried about you're doing your thing.
Exactly. Right. I mean, curfew.
Curfew. I work for a network.
Right. Yep. And then there are a few guys that I know who said, oh, yeah, there were times back in the day in which John would just say, out late last night, huh? And he said, and you just crawled into a hole and you better not have made a mistake that day. That John took the broadcast very seriously. I mean, now if you tried to hold production meetings like that, I mean, there'd be a revolt.
Well, but players more than the TV people. I don't think a quarterback and coach would sit there.
I think the TV people.
Actually,
I think John be sitting in the room by himself about midway through it. But Vern used to fill in when Summerall did the U.S. Open. Madden and Vern would do the first 2 games of the year on CBS while Summerall was doing the tennis. And Vern said, I loved, obviously, I'm on the A team and I'm working with John, which was great. He goes, but you had to block off 4 hours for a production meeting. He goes, and when you went back to your other crew, you had to block off about 30 minutes. Angelique Chengelis, who's covering the Michigan Wolverines, they have a fairly big game coming up Friday night. We'll preview it next. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network.
It's been a great start to the NFL season, and it's only getting better at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. DraftKings is putting new customers in the center of the action with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Get in on the action now. It's simple. Just pick your lineup, stay under the salary cap, and see how your team stacks up against the competition. Feel the NFL action like never before with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. And the best part is you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings app now and use code M&M. This week, new customers can get a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Enter code M&M to get a free shot at millions in total prizes with your first deposit. That's code M&M only at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. Perverts, both of you. The only reason I say that is my phone doesn't have enough. I had to get my charger, so I couldn't even check this. Whoa. What happened here? Hang on. There we go. Whoa, that was weird. By the way, no offense, Johnny, that woman needs a carb. That's almost too skinny. Yeah, I said it. Literally 19 votes in. Video game 21%, broadcaster 79%, 0 coach. Thought so. She is a UC. I had Raj ask just to make sure. She is a UC Bearcat alum.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
"22 minutes before the hour. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network. The Florida Sports Network, legendary voice of the Tampa Bay Lightning, Dave Mishkin, to join us coming up at the top of the hour. Seth Everett, 1 hour from now. It is a pleasure to welcome back Angelique Chengelis. She covers the Wolverines for the Detroit News. You can follow Angelique on Twitter at Chengelis, Chengelis. Angelique, a belated merry and an early happy. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting week. I have not yet arrived in Florida. When the National semifinals decided to go virtual, I thought, what's the point of getting there? So I'm heading down there tonight to get ready for this Orange Bowl game.
Angelique, you live in Michigan. I don't think there's many reasons why we could have told you. You could have come a week ago.
I know. I have a couple of my colleagues are down there, and I'm seeing their photos from the beach, and it's 80 degrees, and it just snowed here a little bit yesterday. So I am wondering what I was thinking,
Yeah.
but
Come on, Angelique. You can talk the editor into the old man on the street story, the impact on the economy, the people who've come down there early, spent Christmas. I mean, come on, Angelique. You needed to put more effort into this.
Yeah, there's no doubt. To tell you what, from Tampa to Miami, you could have just seen the block a lot. They're very prideful. Before I get to Mexico, Angelique, I want to talk to you, the best about against because we have UCF in our neighborhood, and they start undefeated seasons. They didn't get the opportunity that Cincinnati is now getting. Just how excited are you, the Bearcat alum, about Cincinnati making the Final Four?
It's really, truly amazing. I mean, I was looking back when I was in school at the records, the 4 years I was there, the football team's record, and it was really pretty pathetic. And, it was a time when Nippert Stadium. There was all sorts of it was breaking down. Fans couldn't even attend games there. They had to move UC games to Riverfront Stadium. And I've been to campus obviously since then, and it really has become a true campus. I mean, it was definitely a commuter school when I was going to school, and now it has that real feel. And they're going to be moving to the Big 12, but this is really remarkable what Luke Fickell has done, and I think that the UC alumni base, it's just been really something special for UC alums and for obviously current students. And what Luke Fickell has done is really remarkable, and he should be applauded. And it's unfortunate maybe that they're playing Alabama. I don't know. I mean, point spread's pretty big, and Alabama is formidable as we all know, but this has been something really, really unbelievable. I never, ever thought I would see UC in this situation.
Angelique, and really the same question is going to be asked of Michigan to a lesser degree, but how much of this do you believe? I mean, the modern landscape, and while this is a glorious period in time, how sustainable do you think a Cincinnati, a UCF, a Houston, a Memphis, how sustainable do you believe their success can be? It doesn't have to be top 5 success. I mean, if Cincinnati can become a consensus top 15, top 20 program, the money will keep flowing in. Do you believe that this is sustainable, or is this a fickle phenomenon? And if he leaves, good luck.
Well, I think that you have seen a lot of growth at UC in the last probably 2 decades. I mean, there have been some really, but you look at the coaches, they've used UC as a springboard, but they have developed something there. So this isn't, it's not suddenly that Luke Fickell came in and waved a magic wand and suddenly UC is relevant. Relevant on this stage, yes. In a top 5 situation, absolutely. But Brian Kelly was there, Mark D'Antonio was there. I mean, they've had Butch Jones was there. I mean, they've had some really big names who have gone on and done bigger things. So I think it's always been there. But Luke Fickell has stayed there, and there's been flirtations with other programs, or at least they flirted with him, and Luke Fickell hasn't budged yet. And I think that's really been important for this program, that they've had some stability with him. And he doesn't seem to want to leave. I mean, it's not like he's looking around and eyeing other programs. I mean, maybe when Ohio State, if it ever opens, maybe that's his next destination. I would think that would be the natural progression. But right now, he seems to be extremely happy at UC, and I think he has built something. I mean, you look at his recruiting; it's still not highly ranked like an Ohio State, like a Penn State, like a Michigan. But he's doing a lot with what he's bringing into UC.
Hey, this may seem silly to a lot of people, but I want to ask the same question about Michigan, because we have people around, and I joke around, but I've not seen more Block M hats. I've seen more in the last month than I have in the last 5 years, and I'm not joking when I say that. Michigan fans are very proud right now, and they think they're back. But their best defensive players are going to be gone. There's a lot of seniors on this team. I know they've done a nice job recruiting, but there still is this team in Columbus that's pretty good. Can Michigan sustain what they've pulled off this year? And I mean the same thing that David asked you. Not saying that they go to the playoffs every year, Angelique, but sustain being where it is Michigan and Ohio State. Because right now it's Ohio State and it's a canyon between everybody else until this year.
That is the question, and it's one that I was talking about with a couple of my colleagues yesterday. Like, can you say that Michigan's back? And I'm not sure you can. I do think, I think when you look at the college football landscape this year, there were a lot of anomalies, and there was, the way games went this year was just not what you expected, and you didn't expect to see Alabama drop one, against the A&M. You saw things that you didn't expect, but you got the sense that Jim Harbaugh expected this year from July when he said, they're going to work to beat Ohio State and win the national Big Ten championship and then a national championship or die trying. And I thought, wow, does he know something here? I mean, is there something that he has seen? And I do think he's got the right formula, the right recipe right now with this staff. I think he's really nailed it, and I thought he did in the spring, when you talk to the players, they were so much happier with this younger staff and more ambitious in terms of recruiting as well with the younger group. But yeah, I mean, it boils down to, can they beat Ohio State on a regular basis? And they won this big game. It was significant, but you're right. They had some key pieces on defense that won't be there next year. Aiden Hutchinson, Josh Ross at linebacker. I'm thinking David Ajabo will be moving on. More than likely, Dax Hill will be moving on. So you do lose some key pieces on defense. For the most part, you return an offense, and with the two quarterbacks, with Cade McNamara and J.J. McCarthy. So that's going to be interesting to see how that evolves next year. But, the game's in Columbus next year. It is about, can they establish consistency there? And I'm not sure yet. One win doesn't say that Michigan's back in terms of winning the game. And because Ohio State's a machine and really has been for the last 2 decades. I don't think anyone could argue that. And, but I think Michigan has hit on something. And it's just going to be a matter of, can Jim Harbaugh maintain this? And I'm not sure yet. I don't think there's enough evidence, but it sure looks like they've got a nice blueprint this year.
Angelique Chengelis covers the Wolverines for the Detroit News. Follow Angelique on Twitter at Chengelis, Chengelis. Angelique, sometimes there's a matchup and coaches go, you know what? This is not a good matchup for us. We're a good team, but man, I just don't like who we have to play. And then there are, I know they're a good team, but this is exactly who we want to play. And Miller and Moulton are of the belief this is a good matchup for Michigan. I mean, this is, two teams that look across at one another and see each other. And we think, and that's why we're surprised at the point spread. In your dealings with the Michigan staff, do they like this matchup?
I think they would agree with you. I think they do like this matchup. And it is, both teams have very strong defenses. Georgia's is top 3 and first in scoring defense, 2 in total defense. Michigan's top 10 and right there in the top 15 in a lot of those categories. But statistics aside, yes, I think they like this matchup. I think that, you can say that Alabama gave them a blueprint for how to beat Georgia. But, Michigan doesn't have a Heisman Trophy quarterback, but they have a very good quarterback. And they do have an ability to run the ball. And they prove that, people are like, oh, they're not going to be able to run the ball against Georgia, but they did against Ohio State, and people didn't think that could happen. And they did so very effectively. So I do think, Georgia has Jordan Davis. I mean, he's a gigantic tackle. But, I think people look at the Alabama game and think that maybe conditioning was an issue with Georgia. So have they improved in the last month in that aspect? Are they going to be gassed in the fourth quarter? Because that's one thing that Michigan, that I had not seen from a Michigan team in a while, and you saw it this year, is a team that's finished and looked fresh in the fourth quarter and never gave up. And, I think Georgia's got some very, very, very fine players. I mean, they've got a freshman tight end who is outstanding, but they have a quarterback in Stetson Bennett and, a very solid backup, kind of like Michigan. But I'm not sure Stetson Bennett, can he withstand the pressure that will come from Aiden Hutchinson and David Ajabo? I think these are going to be really interesting matchups to watch. And I do think that you're right. I mean, I do wonder about the point spread and what the thinking is behind that, because I do think that Michigan very much has a strong chance in this game, because I think that they go. I know it's been a month since they've played, but they have a lot of momentum still and a lot of confidence.
Well, the defensive side for Michigan is where I'm really excited to watch this game, and you touched on it there, Angelique. The way that they can get to the quarterback, and you look at the numbers for Stetson Bennett when he's pressured, they're not. He's not. And the fact that Michigan should be able to get to him with their front four, Angelique, I don't know about you, but that's the whole game to me.
Yes, totally agree. That is the matchup I'm going to be writing about. I mean, I totally agree with that, and so that's why I think some people are wondering if they are getting JT Daniels ready, because I think he would be the more effective quarterback, but is he ready? He was in COVID protocol apparently, but I think the Georgia writers, from what I read, they seem to think that he was going to be and probably will still be a very big part of this game plan on Friday. So I think that would be an interesting wrinkle. And it's just like I think that for Michigan's offense to be effective against this Georgia defense, I think that there has to be a little bit of J.J. McCarthy in there too, to give them that different look, to make them think. You know, he's got the ability to run, and I do think that Michigan has really prepared him all season for that kind of display that I think will have on Friday, because I think that is something they're going to need against this Georgia defense, just to give them a different look and give them a little more breathing room.
Angelique, I think the key to the season was the drive at Penn State.
Yes.
I mean, they were dominating that game. All of a sudden, they have like a bad 6 minutes and they're down and they're going to blow another game and they're going to be done. They're out of it when they were clearly the better team. And then they do something they haven't done in years. They put an 80-yard drive together on the road. Boom, 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 touchdown. And to me, at that moment, it was as if that team said, okay, we're different.
Yep. Totally agree with you. I mean, I've been asking players, like, what do you think the turning point has been? And they all said different things, but it you know, they did come back to that Penn State game. I mean, that was a really important. I mean, it really erased some of the ills of this program under Jim Harbaugh, which has been not finishing games and kind of folding and collapsing when they've hit a little adversity, like they did late in that game on that strip sack. And, you know, the defense did come through too. I mean, that they don't get enough credit for that in those final 6 minutes, holding Penn State to a field goal there. And then Cade McNamara orchestrating that drive and hitting Eric All, the tight end, who, you know, he was on a bum ankle. And, you know, he willed himself into the end zone, you know, there to get the game-winning score. But yeah, I totally agree that to me was the moment when you're like, okay, this team has definitely has something different going on with it. And, you know, you can look at so many different things this season. And I do think, I know Josh Gaddis won the Broyles Award for the top assistant coach and very deserved of that award. But Mike McDonald has been such an important addition to this staff. That the new defensive coordinator, he had one hiccup against Michigan State, and I think tried to get too cute. But what that defense did at Penn State in those final 5.5 minutes, and then giving the offense an opportunity there, that was important. And I agree, that was definitely the key.
Angelique, safe travels tonight. Stay safe. Enjoy your time in South Florida. It's going to be in the 80s.
I know. I can't wait.
It's giddy.
Yeah.
Next time we'll come sooner. If the Detroit News doesn't have a big enough expense account, maybe we can chip in.
That would be great. I look forward to it, and I hope you all enjoy the semifinal game.
Angelique Chengelis, safe travels. She covers the Wolverines for the Detroit News, heading to South Florida tonight. You and I thought that this would be like a 3 to 5 point spread, and we
couldn't bet Michigan fast enough, and those are words that never come out of my mouth.
And it's still over 7.
Right.
You're getting the hook still.
If I'm wrong, I'm fine with it.
Right. Yeah.
If Michigan's going to win the game. Michigan's going to win the game.
Look at that.
Michigan, Alabama national championship.
Boy, that wouldn't do well in the race.
No, terribly.
At all. Nobody would be interested in that.
Love to see what the numbers are in Columbus for that game.
I'd love to know who they're rooting for.
There's no more time. I think they might turn I honestly think Columbus might turn that game off.
Miller and Moulton. Dave Mishkin, voice of the Lightning, next.
The Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, presented by RP Funding, roars through the streets of beautiful downtown St. Petersburg, February 25th to the 27th. 3-day tickets are on sale now at gpstpete.com. It's fast, fun, family entertainment jam-packed into 3 days. The weekend is highlighted by the NTT IndyCar Series race taking the green flag on Sunday afternoon. It all happens at the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, presented by RP Funding, February 25th to the 27th. Get your tickets at gpstpete.com to secure the best seats.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the Chicken Bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today.
It's been a great start to the NFL season, and it's only getting better at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. DraftKings is putting new customers in the center of the action with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Get in on the action now. It's simple. Just pick your lineup, stay under the salary cap, and see how your team stacks up against the competition. Feel the NFL action like never before with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. And the best part is you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings app now and use code M&M. This week, new customers can get a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Enter code M&M to get a free shot at millions in total prizes with your first deposit. That's code M&M. Only at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
You were listening to Miller on the Florida Sports Network. That's the funniest thing I have seen in the Twitch chat room in a long time. Exactly. Okay, she's a knowledgeable. She's very good. I've been reading her stuff for a long time. And she's a funny follow on Twitter because she and her mom are very close, and her mom is starting to understand football at the level my daughter is. And mom's comments and questions are hysterical. Do you really think Georgia has a better chance at beating Bama after what you saw the first time? Alabama is Georgia's daddy.
Yes, they are.
I love it. First-time texter guy says, I remember Madden as a coach with George Blanda coming in to kick and win the game.
There you go. He's in his 60s. I remember this game. Terrific game. Colts were fun, too. Burt Jones, Lydell Mitchell, Roger Carr. It's an old municipal stadium.
Holy cow. I did not know that. Oh my gosh. So this guy, the guy that was the Buckeye fan, texted me also. He goes, I saw the Indigo Girls open for REM. And I texted him this morning. I said, I did as well at Cobo in Detroit. And then he just sends me that REM was the backing band on a Warren Zevon song. I had no idea about it. So I looked up the album. Here's who helped Warren Zevon on this album. All of REM, whole band, including Michael Stipe singing backup. Brian Setzer did guitar on a song. Flea did bass on a song. Don Henley did harmony on a song. Bob Dylan did the harmonica on a song. Neil Young did lead guitar on a song. That's crazy. Think they liked him a little bit? Think other musicians liked Warren Zevon just a little bit?
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
We are halfway home. For those of you listening in the 239, it is the final hour of Miller and Moulton. For those of you listening in the greater Tampa Bay area, we are Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network, the Florida Sports Network. Our poll question at that Mark Miller or the David Moulton, a simple one. The passing of John Madden. When you think of Madden, what it is you think of, the coach, the broadcaster, or the video game. Broadcaster winning in a big way. Very few remembering him as a coach.
Yeah.
Just somewhat understandable considering that he coached his last game some 43 years ago. He broadcast his last game last night. He is the legendary radio voice of the Tampa Bay Lightning. He is Dave Mishkin, who you can follow on Twitter at Dave Mishkin. Dave, it's David and Mark. How are you?
I'm great, guys. I actually remember Madden as coach. I'm probably showing my age. I remember when the Raiders won the Super Bowl in, 77, and him getting carried off the field. Was that his last game as coach? Did he retire right after that, or did he get one more year? That I don't remember.
He did.
I remember him winning the Super Bowl as head coach.
He did 2 more years. He lost in the AFC Championship game the next year to the Orange Crush Denver team, which had a very controversial fumble that was missed. One of the 2 AFC Championship games back-to-back that helped lead to the first use of replay in the NFL. And then he actually had a non-playoff year his final year. He went, lost 4 or 5 games, missed the playoffs. And basically he was burnout before Dick Vermeil made it a trendy thing.
Oh, Dave, we know you're, but this.
I'm supposed to give you knowledge. You guys are dropping the knowledge on me, so thank you for that.
That's that. If you got you need answered, feel free. He was good. Google. I know you're not burned up, but man, oh man, this is getting crazy with the amount of games, the pauses. What's the players with all of this? How hard is it for them to get up every night with all of this going on?
Well, I think it's a roll with the punches mentality that they've had to exhibit on one level or another in the last couple of years, and they've had great success rolling with the punches, whether it was playing 60-plus days in a bubble or being in a bubble for 60-plus days and winning 4 rounds to win the Stanley Cup, or last year where there were some fairly strict protocols, stricter than they are currently, and a very unusual schedule with, even last year, a fair number of postponed games that led to a more condensed schedule and dealing with all of that. And now we're in kind of a different situation, but similar in that you don't know what the next day is going to bring. And I think the Lightning have persevered well, clearly. I mean, they've had a lot of success on the ice since COVID entered our lives, and they're just kind of taking it as it comes, literally minute by minute. I mean, Anthony Cirelli was pulled out of a morning meeting a couple of days ago when his morning test came back positive, and the players just went about their business and finished their meeting and had a practice and got ready for the game last night. Last night's game, you had Sean Day making his NHL debut due to the fact the Lightning were down a couple of defensemen, one due to COVID isolation. They had to use essentially the third string goalie because both of their top 2 goalies are on the COVID protocol list. And it didn't seem to matter in the end. They found a way to win a game again, scoring in the final 20 seconds and then winning in overtime after tying it.
Dave Mishkin, radio voice of the Tampa Bay Lightning. You can follow him on Twitter at Dave Mishkin. The players that you've talked to, the Lightning, like most teams, very international. A lot of guys, especially on the Lightning, who would have participated in the Olympics because they have so many terrific players. For lack of a better word, Dave, how bummed are they that they're not playing?
They're bummed. I mean, they're very disappointed, but I think the situation reached a point where the league had so many games to make up. They needed this window that had been kind of baked into the schedule to allocate for the Olympic break. They don't want to extend the season again. We've done that a couple of years. They want to get back on kind of the regular track, and this season would be ending a little bit later than normal, but not extensively later. But if you're going to start pushing games farther into the season and extending the regular season and extending the playoffs, they just wanted to get away from that. And then, I don't know that this factored into the decision, but, there's a real possibility that players that go over there could test positive and have to quarantine for up to a month or 5 weeks. And that would be incredibly disruptive for their NHL team. First of all, it would be difficult on the player to isolate for that long. We don't have such strict protocols in North America. And then what kind of conditions the player going to be in once he leaves isolation? Now, the league didn't say that players weren't going to go, and the union was on board as well. This was a joint decision between the NHL and the Players Association, but it wasn't due to these strict protocols that China has. It has more to do with the fact that at the point that they made the announcement, I think it was something in the neighborhood of 48 or 49 games were going to have to be rescheduled. And now we're up into the 60s, almost into the 70s in terms of games that have to be made up. They need that window. I mean, they need that window in February to get these games in. So I think that kind of was the bottom line. But sure, the players are disappointed. And there are players like Steven Stamkos who they're acknowledging that this may be their last chance to play in an Olympics. Stamkos has been very unlucky. In 2014, he broke his leg. He couldn't go. In 2018, the league didn't go, so he missed his chance there. And in 2022, there was no guarantee that he was going to make the team, but he's having a heck of a season. And he certainly put himself in the mix to be named to the Olympic team, but now it's moot. So, bummed is a very good word to describe the sentiment of the players. And unfortunately, that's the world we're in right now. And it was not foreseen when it was agreed that the players were going to go to the Olympics that we were going to have this very contagious Omicron variant that was going to disrupt things as much as it has.
Dave, how surprised are you at the longevity of this run? I mean, back to back with all of the things that go on, and yet this team still, 7 in a row at home, 9-0-1 in the last 10 or something like that. I mean, they don't lose. They don't take a break. I've worked for good hockey teams when I broadcasted games. To do this year after year after year, it's not easy. You're playing 100+ games each year. I mean, just the mental toughness of this team, is it unlike anything you've ever seen in your time in Tampa? And even in your time, you worked for some good minor league teams in the A. Have you seen anything like this before?
Well, I've seen teams get on a roll and have that mentality that they just basically refuse to lose. But, I think that this is born not just from what has happened this year or even maybe the last 2 years where they've had success. I think it's been born, at least for the core group, going through some of the playoff disappointments that predated them winning the back-to-back cups, where I think there is something to the notion that you have to learn how to win. And sometimes it takes great disappointment to learn that lesson. Now, you can win without having disappointment, and you can also go through great disappointment and then never get rewarded. There are a lot of really good teams that don't win the Stanley Cup. But the fact that the Lightning went through a lot of deep runs that ended without them winning the Cup, I think strengthen their resolve, help them learn exactly what it took. I mean, I'm kind of speaking in generalities here, but understanding that you can't run and gun your way to a Stanley Cup. I mean, if you can, you're gonna have more risk in the past. Like there are ways to go about winning that will more regularly bring you success in the playoffs. And I think they had to learn that lesson after getting swept by Columbus, taking some of the risk out of their game, not sacrificing defense for offense, getting a little bit more sandpaper into their game, while at the same time not losing their DNA, which is speed, skill, and creativity. And they've been able to find that mix. Now, does that lead one to say, well, this means that they're going to have this incredible start to this very unique regular season where they've had to go through virtually all of it without Nikita Kucherov and 14 games without Braden Point. And Eric Chernak has been more out than in, certainly in the last 7-8 weeks. That doesn't necessarily explain it, but I think it adds to this notion that they're just going to kind of put their head down and figure out a way, which is why Steven Stamkos said maybe we should be called the Tampa Bay Findaways, which there's some element of truth to that where they haven't been at their best and they found a way to get points. But I also think they've played some pretty good hockey this year, which has helped them get points out of a lot of games. They've played, I think it's 12 overtime games now this year, and they've ended up winning either in overtime or the shootout in 8 of them. But that speaks to their ability to, if they are in a close game, to at the very least get the game to overtime. They scored a lot of 6 attacker goals this year where they've had to rally and tie games late. Last night was another example. I think that all goes into this equation of finding a way to win by exhibiting the habits that have brought them success over the last couple of years. So you asked if I ever seen anything like it. I'm not sure that I've ever seen anything like it over this period of time, almost being machine-like in their ability to churn out solid performances that are going to guarantee them an opportunity to get points. And that's what you need to do in the regular season. You need to get enough points to get into the playoffs to give yourself a chance to win the Stanley Cup.
And Dave, final question. We began this conversation by talking a little bit about John Madden, who famously had 3 rules as a coach. Be on time, listen to your coaches, play like hell on Sundays. John Cooper seems like the kind of coach who would less is more, that he has 2 or 3 rules as well. I could see where Coop would be like, be on time. Hey, I'm not going to talk much. Listen to me when I talk. And hey, guys, it's time to drop the puck. Let's go. I mean, is he similar in that respect?
Well, Coop is, and when I use this term, we hear this term a lot, a player's coach. And it doesn't mean that it's a country club. I think that he expects high standards from his players. But I think what has always been one of his greatest strengths as a head coach, going back to his days when he was coaching high school kids, is his ability to connect with his players and get through to his players. There's a lot more to coaching than just that, but if you can do that, that's a big part of building a bond with your players and getting your players to play for you and play for the team. And then you add into, his bench management, his ability to strategize and matching what the other coach is doing and learning his own lessons. I mean, I think after the sweep at the hands of Columbus in 2019, Coop admitted, he needed to look into the mirror and figure out how he might do things differently. And that comes from experience and disappointment as well. So I think he hasn't been shy about growing as a head coach. So I don't know if he has 3 rules or if less is more, but I do think that his ability to speak to his players and connect with his players and foster an environment in which it's a cohesive, solid unit and the players are playing for each other, that has been one of his strengths, certainly, and a big part of why he has had so much success, not just with the Lightning, but go through his coaching resume. At every level, he has had success. I think a lot of it ties back to that particular strength of his.
Dave, thanks for making time for us. We really appreciate it. Happy New Year, safe travels, stay safe, and hopefully we can do this again down the road.
Sounds good, guys. Happy New Year to you as well.
Dave Mishkin, legendary radio voice of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Follow him on Twitter at Dave Mishkin. My voice is not legendary today. I feel really good.
You look good.
And I sound really bad.
Correct again. But you look good.
Well, thank you, Mark.
I mean, you don't look. I mean, the color goes away. You look like you do every day when you walk in here.
Yeah, I mean, outside of the hole in my shirt.
Well, I didn't know that though.
No, I didn't.
I didn't even bring that up on air.
I think it's fitting that we're honoring John Madden because apparently I'm dressed like Madden today. I'm like an unmade bed.
There's no doubt about that.
I've got a shirt on with holes in it. Apparently more than one.
And I mean, I must say the shorts and the shirt really don't go together.
Oh, come on. It's two different shades of blue.
Exactly.
Come on. This is good for me.
It's something. You know what? Can you give me a boom going to break?
Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
It's been a great start to the NFL season, and it's only getting better at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. DraftKings is putting new customers in the center of the action with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Get in on the action now. It's simple. Just pick your lineup, stay under the salary cap, and see how your team stacks up against the competition. Feel the NFL action like never before with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. And the best part is you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings app now and use code M&M. This week, new customers can get a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Enter code M&M to get a free shot at millions in total prizes with your first deposit. That's code M&M. Only at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
You were listening to Miller Sports Network. Now, if that's what you're fine, that's fine, Dad. If that's your reasoning, that's just a generalization because someone's got to explain to me why we think Georgia's so good. Beating Clemson? They weren't any good. Oh, damn it. I'm getting that up on the screen when he comes back. That's some funny stuff right there. Right. I mean, I know their defense is good, but it was exposed against Alabama. And they don't have a good win. Clemson's a good win. They don't have a signature win, that's for sure. Michigan's got a couple. Hell, well, Penn State wasn't that good, so maybe not a couple. What in the hell? Why is my phone not charging? This is starting to get a little eerie now.
You want to use the thing behind you? The outlet by your bag?
I don't have an outlet. I just have one into the computer.
Gotcha.
Jesus Christ.
What's that?
I just got a text from the engineer there that works with Marty. Can you call me? Marty wants to bring an engineer down. It's Wednesday. They're not going to be open here Friday. How do we think we're going to pull this off? That's why I called Monday morning at 10 o'clock. David, can you read the screen, please? It's not really fair to you, but God darn it, that's funny.
Nice. Nice. I like it, Hops.
I think they're similar. I think Michigan's better because I think their quarterbacks are better. Now, I think this game sets up to be Alabama, Georgia. I think that's my fear if I'm betting Michigan, is that halftime Kirby says, I can't win this game with Stetson Bennett, and he puts in JT Daniels. That well, Boom's lost a lot of weight, hasn't he? Back on the Nutrisystems ads. He was big last couple times we've seen him. You know, I'm going to call him today. That number, I doubt we'll get anything. But he does like us. I actually was wondering if I might reach out to what's-his-face from the shootout.
Taylor?
No.
Rob?
Rob. And say, Rob, can you do us a favor? You think you can put a text or a call into Berman? I left a message on the ESPN voicemail. He might come on with us tomorrow for Madden. Might. And by might, I say 10%. Well, the Athletic... That 70 Super 70 Sports had a tweet. Guy in jeans on a unicycle carrying 2 cases of Miller High Life bottles on his shoulders like this. And it says, this man is obviously the goddamn party starter here. Miller High Life responded, said, tell all your dads we said cheers. That's funny.
Nice.
Oh, Eagle 2 hatched this morning.
What?
The other Eagle hatched.
Uh-oh.
Thanks for listening. And now, more of Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
"22 minutes past the hour. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network. The Florida Sports Network. The passing of John Madden, news coming out a little over 12 hours ago. When you think of Madden, do you think of him as a coach, as a broadcaster, or do you think of the video game? It's our poll question. Some have argued there's no one figure that has done more for the NFL than John Madden. Don't know if I go there, but it's a compelling argument.
The Athletics already got an article up saying just that. Maybe the most influential person in football for a guy who never played professional football.
Right. Got hurt in training camp with the Eagles and never made the team and went into coaching at a very early age. Named head coach of the Raiders at 32.
What, 2 years on the job as an assistant?
Linebackers coach. Yep. People said Al Davis had lost his mind.
Obviously not. And what I also, when reading some things this morning and throughout the show today, I didn't realize, because he bounced around college. He went to Oregon and then got hurt and then transferred to a smaller college. But he was childhood friends with John Robinson and went to Oregon to play football with John Robinson. And that was something I did not know.
They were best friends. And when John Robinson's coaching career came to an end, Robinson became a spotter. Robinson traveled with him and was with him in the booth.
And as we've talked throughout the show, his influence on broadcasting is unbelievably important in so many different areas. David mentioned the production meetings, that they would take hours. I thought the point that you made that Vern Lundquist would do 2 games with him a year when Summerall was doing the U.S. Open at the beginning of the year, that Vern said he would book 30 minutes for his production meetings for 14 of the 16 broadcasts that he would do. The 2 he would do with Madden, he would block out 4 hours.
John needed everybody to know what both teams' game plans were going to be and how the teams were going to try to beat the other. And he believed if those of you who were cameramen or women or just in the truck, he felt the more you knew about football and the more you knew about the game that was about to happen, the better the job you're going to do covering it.
The fact he would coach a broadcast crew to the extent of sitting in a hotel room to check on which broadcast members showed up late out partying is crazy to me.
I've had a few people tell me that story, that John would basically, going back to his coaching days and curfew, that he would just hang out in a hotel lobby, and he knew there were certain people that would burn the proverbial midnight oil, and he was not a big fan of it.
Well, I'm wondering if one of the ones he was trying to watch was his partner. Because I quit drinking. I know he finally did quit. But Bia Summerall and Berkshire were legendary. I mean, legendary partiers.
Yes, they were. And eventually, and Pat Summerall detailed this in a book. He also said so in an interview on this show. We never had Madden, by the way.
No.
We had Pat Summerall a handful of times over the years, late in his career. It was really funny, the early days of Sunday Night Football, when NBC was doing it. NBC was really worried that it wasn't going to work. And NBC did a full-on media blitz on a weekly basis, and they were offering up Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth, Melissa Stark, who was the original sideline reporter, and then Michelle Tafoya and others, and they would offer them up on a weekly basis. All right, they would send out, faxes or emails and say, hey, they're available for 10 minutes to promote Sunday Night Football. Are you interested? No. Why would we be interested in talking to Al Michaels? No. Yeah, we could do 10 minutes with Al if it works for you. So we had Al Michaels on in our early days in our first act. We had Chris Collinsworth on. We never had Madden, though.
No.
Couldn't get him in a Super Bowl. His last broadcast was up until this past Super Bowl. It was the last Super Bowl in Tampa. It was the Pittsburgh, Arizona Super Bowl. It was the 2008 season, January 2009. And John didn't let many people know that was going to be his last broadcast.
As it's pointed out in our Twitch chat room, teams would tell him their game plan. That's trust. It is. And David, have you ever been lucky enough to sit in on one of these production meetings?
Yes.
How detailed is it?
Depends on the coach. Depends on the coach, depends on the broadcaster. Not to be that vague, but, and I will say, it's tough when you're doing 2 a week. When you're doing a game on Thursday and on Sunday, it's tough to have 2 intense production meetings. I mean, the announcers and the producer and the director have to do a lot of their homework away from the hotel meeting room. And also these last 2 years, there's been a lot of Zoom. But normally, if you're doing 1 game a week and it's the late afternoon, early evening before the game the next day, you talk to the one coach and you would request, hey, can I get the head coach? Can I get the coordinator? Can I get these players?
Do they come to you? Do you go to them?
We make the request and then we're told,
come to the team facility, come to the team hotel.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what.
Yeah.
Well, I'm guessing a lot of our audience doesn't know it.
Yeah. The announcers go to the team, whether it's on site at the stadium or, which obviously hasn't happened in the last 2 years because of COVID. All right. Or whether it's the team hotel. The announcing crew goes and sets up shop in a meeting room and then guys come down. And there's footage of that in the Madden documentary. Nate Newton said he used to just crash the production meetings whether he was asked to or not. He just wanted to be around Madden. He felt that Madden made him a star.
He did.
And,
he did. Nate's right.
And also that Nate and many other, Matt Millen talked about it at length in the documentary, that Madden was the first one to really focus on the lineman. John was a lineman. So going back to his roots, I don't think it made the documentary, but Andy Reid got emotional, and I think it made a promo clip about the documentary earlier in December, in which Andy Reid was a second year coach with the Eagles, and he started a game off on the road against the Cowboys with an onside kick, and they recovered it. And John Madden went on a soliloquy about that's leadership. That's a head coach right there. Told them all week, we're going to do this. We've got an advantage, and this is going to work. And John goes, trust me, been in front of the guys. It better work. All right. And Andy said, I was not on the job very long. You know, we had a losing record our first year in Philadelphia. A lot of people wondering who in the world did they hire? And Andy said, meant a lot. Came out of that game, heard what John had said, and Andy goes, wow, I guess I'm a coach in the NFL. I can do this.
Well, Philadelphia, how tough it is and how they just chew people up and spit them out. They're all watching, and they all respect John Madden, so it goes a long way. It just, you shouldn't listen to Tom Brady to make decisions, but owners do.
There were so many clips that have been sent out last night, and there are a lot of people telling a lot of stories last night, today, probably tomorrow. There will obviously be, the funeral and what have you. And so you will probably see and hear stories for the next week to 10 days. But they aired a clip of a Cowboys-Eagles game in which the Cowboys, with 2 minutes to go. Now, it's so funny, that game then, and to see it now. The game is tied at 17 with 2 minutes to go, and the Cowboys have the ball 4th and a foot on their own 29.5-yard line. Well, obviously, back then, we're talking mid to late 90s here. Barry Switzer's the coach of the Cowboys. You punt the ball. Barry went for it. And they went for it once, and they didn't get the playoff in time. The 2-minute warning had just happened, but the Eagles stopped them on the play. Nobody knew that they didn't get the playoff in time. So the 2-minute warning happens, and Barry doesn't reconsider. He goes, and he lines up in the same formation and runs the same play. Now, remember, this is the Cowboys. This is the triplets. These are that legendary offensive line. Moose Johnston's the fullback. It's a foot that they need. In Philadelphia, tie game, 2 minutes to go. And they give it to Emmett, and Emmett gets stoned. Lost a half a yard to a yard. All right. And John Madden goes on a soliloquy basically saying this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen, and they deserve to lose the game. But Madden and Summerall's last broadcast together was Brady's first Super Bowl win. That's the other thing about Madden and Summerall, is that they were around just long enough that they got to Brady. And in fact, John took a little heat. And I don't know how many of you are either big Patriots fans or if you remember this, when you're an analyst, you got to lay it out there. And the Rams come back and tie it at 17, and there's a little less than 2 minutes to go, and the Patriots are pinned deep in their own end, and they got like 2 timeouts, and Brady's played about 15 games. And John Madden says, yeah, I'd play for overtime.
That's right.
He goes,
that's right.
Yep. Nothing against Brady and what have you. And, obviously they came out and they ran a little draw, and then they ran a screen and a little hook, and everybody just kept getting out of bounds, and they got out over the 30. And Madden's like, well, okay, they're not taking my advice, but they better be careful here. And obviously they matriculated the ball down the field and kicked the field goal and won. But it's one of the few times, this was the beginning of the day and age where, and Madden took grief. Right. For maybe the first time in his career, Madden took heat about what he said broadcasting a game.
And if I recall right, he didn't back down from it because that's what they be wrong. I'm the rookie quarterback in the Super Bowl. I don't know what to tell you. I was wrong.
Right.
I still believe what I said.
Yeah.
And good for them and what they did. But that's how I've done it.
Took a big risk. I would not have taken it. I would have played for overtime. But obviously, they knew what they were doing. Miller and Moulton.
Who what they're doing.
Not really. No. We do have a good poll question, though, at that Mark Miller, the David Moulton. Your thoughts on John Madden, and when we say Madden and when you think of Madden, what is it you think of? Do you think of the coach? Do you think of the broadcaster? Or do you think of the video game? There is no wrong answer. And when we come back, should something be done by the NFL going forward concerning John Madden? Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network.
Mark Miller for Orange Whip Golf and Fitness Power Peel at Home Training System. This complete body and swing trainer uses resistance band connection system to fix bad habits and ingrain a more consistent, powerful swing. The Power Peel system is powered by functional golf swing training technology. It trains both your swing and body at the same time. Simply make a few prescribed resistant band connections, and in a few steps on the peel, you'll swing better, feel better, and play better. Use it before your round of warm-up, as your daily fitness routine, or anytime you want to feel and train the swing you've always wanted. Pair the Power Peel with the Orange Whip Golf and Fitness at Home training technology, available with a monthly membership, and maximize your results with Golf Fitness X coach-led programs that take less than 20 minutes a day. Buy the Power Peel training bundle now for 4 interest-free payments of $115 by going to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10. That's code Miller10 to save $45. Go to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10 to save $45 and play better golf. Go to orangewhipgolf.com. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. Oh, Andrew Brandt tweeted out, "We'll never forget a production meeting I got to sit in with Madden interviewing Favre." I could do 10 minutes on that production meeting if Brandt wanted to come on. That's pretty cool. They had a thing, Cordell Patterson coming off the must be soup. Fans got down on the field for pregame.
Mm-hmm.
The boy gets a ball. The little girl's bawling. He walks by, looks at the mom. He goes, "Why is she crying?" He goes, "Well, he got a ball. She didn't." "We need a ball? Let me get your ball." Walks over, gives her a ball, leaves. That's good stuff. That's what we need more of on Twitter. What is this from? I don't know what this show. What award do you want to name after him?
I don't know.
I think the only thing you can do is the Coach of the Year award, is the Madden award, but we don't care about those type of awards. I mean, you're not taking Lamar Hunt's name off the trophy.
I don't know, Mongo.
I didn't think he ever lived in New York.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Lives in California. We had Jeff Dickerson on the show before, didn't we? The Chicago Bears guy that died yesterday.
Yeah.
Thought we had him on a few times.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize. I just saw a tweet about it. His wife died of cancer. They got a kid.
11. Wife died 2 years ago.
Right. Wow.
Unreal.
Wow. So, we're coming back, but I have to laugh. I'll tell you that this NBC2 article, the number of people who lost prizes. Read the whole article.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
19 minutes before the hour and earlier in the show. Welcome back, Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, the Florida Sports Network. I was mistaken. I said Seth Everett would be joining us at his normal day and time, which is now. Turns out Seth had texted me last week, said, yeah, I can't do Wednesday. I can do Thursday. And I forgot. So a jam-packed show already tomorrow. Bud Elliott, Seth Everett, Pat Kerwin on the show tomorrow. Never mind the fact that we'll probably have somebody to cover the Georgia part of the Georgia-Michigan game.
Yep. And freedom. David's been booking the show in Act 3, so this is working out really well for you. I like it. Get your errands done. Get ready to head to L.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Going to have to figure out how many this is for me. I haven't done as many as Gary. There have been a couple that I missed. I took a couple of vacations.
Right. I remember. I remember because I bet. Can I do one, Gary? I'll fly to El Paso. I'd love El Paso in December.
I took a couple of vacations and missed out on it. And one time it was a snowstorm. And the other time the game was 3-0. You want to talk about some texts? Okay, when you're having to suffer through broadcasting a 3-0 game, and I'm back home going, that's sunny and 85 here.
Right. Not and things to like, what am I supposed to add right now? It's 3-0.
I did contribute something, though. Vern said on the air, it was scoreless, I believe, going to the fourth quarter. And Vern said, I have never done a game like this. And don't ask me why I remember this. But
David, we quit asking why you remember things because you remember damn near everything.
Thank you. It's crazy, trivial stuff. But, you know, when I was a young kid wanting to be a sportscaster, the score of a Cowboys-Lions playoff game from like 70 or 71 stayed in my head because it was 5-0. You don't see a score like that very often. And it was 2-0 going to the fourth quarter. And so I text Vern and I go, didn't you call a playoff game with the Lions 5-0 final, 2-0 going to the fourth? And, you know, Vern comes out of commercial break and he was, listen, it's not like you're going to talk about the game. The game was dreadful.
Right.
I mean, the play of the game was the hold on the field goal. The holder made a nice play on the hold on the field goal. That was the play of the game.
Mike. Who was in that game, by the way?
Pitt and Oregon State. Wannstedt was coaching in it. We could bring that game up. I don't know if he won or lost it. I think he lost it. Mike Riley and Dave Wannstedt, I'm pretty sure, were the head coaches. Sun Bowl, 3-0. So Vern then goes on a soliloquy, you know, talking about this Lions-Cowboys game, you know, with Staubach and Dwayne Thomas, Calvin Hill, and a few others. And, hey, Alex Karras for why not? I mean, what?
Right.
How could Vern's story be worse than what it is people are watching at home?
The lowest scoring major bowl game in a half century. Number 24, Oregon State beating Pitt 3-0 on Justin Cahoot's 44-yard field goal late in the first half. 20 punts, 9 sacks.
Oh, in the first half, so it was 3-0 going to the fourth.
Yes.
Okay, and he said he had never done a game, and I said, I'm pretty sure he did a game. It was 2-0 going to the fourth. So, gotcha.
Call Pittsburgh Post-Gazette the worst bowl game ever.
Wow. There you go. Sell it, baby.
Right.
Sell it. What year was that?
That game was played in, well, they didn't even have 2008 Sun Bowl.
There you go. Yep. I think Dave coached another year or two at Pitt after that. That'll take years off your life, a game like that.
How do you recruit after that game?
Although Mike Riley, I think shortly after that got the Nebraska job. So how in the world did that happen? Anyway, I wanted to get to this point. There are a few people who, after hearing the news last night that John Madden had passed away, and with many people saying what a huge figure that he was in the league, some arguing there has been no bigger figure in the history of the league. I mean, the Raiders came into prominence as a great franchise under Madden. 10 years as head coach. They won 103 games. This is when you only played 14 games in a season. That's averaging over 10 wins a year, when that means the worst you did was 10-4. They went to 7 AFC championship games in those 10 years. Won a Super Bowl. It was the Raiders, it was the Dolphins, it was the Steelers. Then obviously we know his impact as a broadcaster, and of course the video game will live on for likely generations.
Right. That you don't need an NFL award, an NFL anything named after John Madden, because I could go to a lot of football fans and say, name the AFC championship trophy, name the NFC championship trophy. And some will know, and most won't. Name the NFL video game. Everybody knows.
Yes.
He named it. He's got Madden. When you say Madden to generations of people, generations, that award, great. Some award, whatever. We don't even care about awards anymore. Is there an award we really, truly care about anymore?
I don't think so. You know, used to be MVP in baseball, used to be even the Heisman.
I mean, I still think the Heisman's the biggest, but we don't, if it weren't for Nissan doing all the great stuff, by the way, I think their ads are brilliant with the Heisman House. But it's not something that we're into. I mean, the number one video game in this country, because I think FIFA's numbers are far more international than Madden, obviously.
Those are the two, by the way, video games that have sold over 100 million. Madden sales estimated at around 7 billion worldwide.
Think about that. You could buy a couple of franchises. You could buy every sport and have money left with what Madden's generated in sales.
Right. Even Steve Cohen of the Mets and Stan Kroenke of the Rams go, damn, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah. So his legacy lives on forever with that video game.
Well, I agree with that.
And as young kids become older, they'll find out more about John Madden.
But if you're Roger Goodell and you're the NFL, while what you've said is, I believe, 100% correct. But if you're the league, they didn't.
Then coach of the year.
Okay.
Or you come up with a whole brand new award.
Well, I'm wondering, do you rename the Emmy that is given to the, sports analyst of the year? Do you rename that? Right now it's just Emmys. Hey, the Emmy for the top analyst is.
Roger couldn't do anything about that, and I would doubt that TV people would rename an award. They're pretty proud of what the Emmy means.
Right.
So I'll go back to I'm with you, but I'll go back.
By the way, care to take a guess how many? Did it for 29 or 30 years, depending on how you do the math.
How many Madden won?
How many Emmys?
20?
Close, 16.
Okay. I mean, he should get it every other year. That seems about right. I mean, it's the Costas award on the other side for the longest time.
Yeah, I think Costas has like 18. Yeah, something ridiculous.
It's nothing better than when Dan Patrick has Costas on and he calls him a loser. It's one of the best drops that I've ever heard in my life.
Someone suggested that the NFL, like Joe Buck, is now a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He was just given this year the Pete Rozelle Award. Al Michaels, Jim Nantz, others have gotten it. Jack Buck received it. And that's for contributions to the sport that are usually broadcasters and or public relations. And they're wondering whether or not the Pete Rozelle Award should be renamed the John Madden Award.
I could argue that you could just name that wing of the Hall of Fame the John Madden wing, the Madden wing of broadcast excellence.
I'm with you, by the way. I think his legacy is enough. I don't think you have to do anything else to honor him. There are just some that believe that, listen, if he's this big a figure in the league, how come you don't have anything? You know, it is the Walter Payton Man of the Year award. You do win the Lombardi Trophy. I mean, it's like, hey, if this guy was really this big, should you go out of your way to name something after?
But I mean, it's the Hallis and the Hunt Trophy on each side of the AFC and NFC. You're not renaming the other of those.
Nope.
And to me, those are the two biggest trophies not named Lombardi.
And I would actually argue maybe the Peyton Man of the Year award, but because I think it means more to the players. But I mean, I'm fine with it. It's just a point that others have made that I thought was worthy of bringing up. Don't think he and his family needed it, to be honest with you.
No. How many billion in sales is that again?
That would be 7.
They're doing just fine.
He also, by the way, and he makes very brief reference to it in the Fox documentary. He said, you know, I did this, I did this, I did this, I had success, and I did well in business, he says. And that's all he goes. He bought up a bunch of land and almonds, I believe. Between almonds and avocados, I think John Madden made a ton of money. 8-figure crooked number money off almonds and avocados.
Both California staples.
Yep. Bought up some land.
Hey.
So, you know.
I like both. I prefer the avocado to the almond, personally. I think you probably go the other way.
I would.
You are anti-guacamole, has been pointed out in Act 1 of the show when we had Moose Johnson, I think, promoting holy guacamole.
Yes. Holy guacamole. We said that for a good 2 weeks.
And people at Holy Guacamole love.
Yes, they did.
And the fact that David didn't like guacamole ended up with a gigantic styrofoam cooler, the biggest styrofoam cooler I've ever seen, shipped to our studio full of.
Said, Mark, take it away. Somebody at the Ryan in our Twitch chat room says, why don't you rename the All-Pro team after him? After all, he had his own All Madden team.
Ooh.
I do like that. That's got a chance. I like it, Ryan. Thanks a lot.
That's pretty solid.
So, DC wants to know, who the heck beat him out for the Emmy the 14 years he didn't win?
Well, I mean, there were sports and other people who were pretty good analysts. Did Dr. Jack ever get one?
I don't think so.
Now I got to spend the break looking up who won sports Emmys.
He had a big run in the 80s to the mid-90s, Madden did. Last 10 years or so of his career, didn't win a lot of them. You know, 81 through 95, won just about them all.
Tampa St. Pete, we thank you for taking in another Miller and Moulton. Fort Myers, Naples, your is coming up on the other side. We thank you all for listening to Miller and Moulton. You know, we do it every day, 6 to 10, right here on the Florida Sports Network.
The Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, presented by RP Funding, roars through the streets of beautiful downtown St. Petersburg, February 25th to the 27th. 3-day tickets are on sale now at gpstpete.com. It's fast, fun, family entertainment jam-packed into 3 days. The weekend is highlighted by the NTT IndyCar Series race taking the green flag on Sunday afternoon. It all happens at the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, presented by RP Funding, February 25th to the 27th. Get your tickets at gpstpete.com to secure the best seats.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the chicken bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today.
It's been a great start to the NFL season, and it's only getting better at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. DraftKings is putting new customers in the center of the action with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Get in on the action now. It's simple. Just pick your lineup, stay under the salary cap, and see how your team stacks up against the competition. Feel the NFL action like never before with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. And the best part is you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings app now and use code M&M. This week, new customers can get a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Enter code M&M to get a free shot at millions in total prizes with your first deposit. That's code M&M. Only at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
All right. What do you got?
I think, honestly, we just re-go.
Okay.
You know, the whole... Got a really nice text from someone basically saying, you know, really enjoying the stories. I think we go back and do a couple more stories. It's still here. Every Beasley vehicle that was here when we got let go is still here, and none of them work. It is a parking lot of dead vans back here, and I'm not joking. In fact, during a commercial break, I may have to invite myself to the Twitch. I could walk people out with the phone, give you a little shot of the golf cart.
By the way, my lawyer buddy says you need to check out Hindu Love Gods cover of Raspberry Beret.
Okay.
How's everybody doing? You guys working this week? You off? People traveling? I'm curious. Who all's going to the game in Miami or another bowl game? Yes,
I don't know why it makes no sense because everything's going to the computer the same. I don't know if I speak too loudly, if it's my voice that's setting it off. I don't know. I really don't. It's really weird. Oh, you Christmas shop after Christmas. That's impressive.
It's funny. I feel good. I just sound awful.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
The bonus hour of Miller and Moulton on this final Wednesday of 2021. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, 35 minutes away from the good, the bad, and the ugly. What's on tap? Today was the day when, and a few other parting thoughts. I've spent the majority of the show talking about John Madden, his life, his legacy. What do you think of when you hear somebody mention John Madden, or do you just think of Madden, the video game? It's our poll question. That Mark Miller, the David Moulton. Do you think of him as a coach? Do you think of him as a broadcaster? Do you think of him as the video game?
By the way, yesterday, 61% of you agreed with David and I that the Dolphins will not make the playoffs.
It's actually a higher number of those that think they will than I thought.
Well, I mean, I think I did have fins up in the question, which could lead people to find that who are Dolph fans.
It could. It could. But Dolphins in the playoffs, if the playoffs started today, and if they win their last two games, they will definitely make the playoffs. At Tennessee, home for New England. And think about it, Mark, even though they didn't do a lot of AFC games, he ended his career by being a part of Sunday Night Football. I mean, who knows? New England at Miami could be the Sunday night game. How about that? That's when you knew you had a big game, when Summerall and Madden were doing your game. Now it's if Sunday Night Football flexes to your game.
Right. It's not the 425 anymore. It's really getting flexed to the 8. Even 25 games on both networks are still big boy games.
Well, they actually outrate Sunday Night Football. Okay, but the perception is late in the season, if Sunday Night Football flexes to your game, that's the biggest game of the day. But the 425 block is actually the highest rated block. It's kind of like college football on Saturday. The 3:30 block on CBS has been far and away the highest rated block. This year, it might be the noon block on Fox.
Better games this year. The SEC, from a competitive standpoint, let the conference down this year. I mean, the East was boring.
Don't disagree.
And Bama had their toughest game probably early with Florida until they played Auburn at the end of the year.
Well, I mean,
I know they lost the game.
I mean, listen, here's the funny thing. We actually felt at CBS we got lucky this year. You're only allowed to air a team 5 times, so you know you're going to air Alabama 5 times. It's just a matter of what 5. And if you think about it, we aired them against Florida, 2-point game.
Right.
We aired them against Lane and Ole Miss, in which
it was a good competitive game and fun.
And off the top, he tells everybody to get the popcorn ready and throws the headset. All right. So it's like, oh, okay, game on. You know, then you get Alabama playing Arkansas. Arkansas has the ball mid-4th quarter with a chance to take the lead. You know, obviously the Auburn game, and there's one other there that I missed, but 4 of the 5 games were close games. We never get that with Alabama. You're lucky if you get one. And, of course, A&M beat them.
No, the West was fine. But where we sit,
right,
spending a lot of time watching Gator football.
Right.
There wasn't, Kentucky acted like they were a good team for an hour and a half.
But nobody cares.
Including all of the Kentucky fans.
Right.
Arkansas, I think, was probably the story that didn't get enough play in the SEC. I mean, they had a hell of a good year.
They did. Beat A&M, beat Texas. That's a full year for Arkansas. Took Alabama to the wire.
But then Georgia just destroyed them.
They did.
Which took a lot out of what Arkansas was doing. And now the SEC having a
Listen,
tough bowl season to get started.
0-4 tough bowl season. Thank you very much. But let's face it.
None of those games matter.
No.
If they win the 2 on Friday.
That's all that counts.
SEC,
There
SEC.
Which was a question that we asked of you. Many of you are SEC fans, but quite frankly, are you to the point in which you're done cheering for Alabama?
Yeah, my 2 questions to college football fan bases today. SEC fan, whatever team you root for, if it's not Alabama, are you sick of Alabama? Are you actually quietly wanting to see Cincinnati beat Alabama? Would that make you happy? Because in the SEC, it's always been us versus everybody else. But now it's tough to play that mentality when you're known as the biggest and baddest conference on the planet. And the other one is to the UCF fan. I am incredibly curious of how you feel about the Bearcats. Are you rooting for them? Do you feel that you were a part of this? Or are you envious and a little jealous of the fact that they got in the playoff and you didn't? David and I believe you should be rooting for them and feel that you're a big part of why they're there.
Yeah.
That you had a lot to do with this. Without your 2 undefeated seasons, Cincinnati wouldn't be in this position today.
I don't think that's deniable. I really don't. How could you think Cincinnati would have gotten in on their own merits if UCF didn't have the seasons they had in 2017 and 2018 and began the debate of, hey, the group of 5 team can play? I mean, Mark, I filled in one time on the college football channel on Sirius XM. And when you fill in, I'm a theme show guy when I fill in because, I'm going to do 1-2 shows a year type deal.
Right.
And so the theme that day was, how many games in a row does UCF have to win before you'll say, okay, I'll give them a shot?
What was the number?
Well, and this was early in year 2, so that they were already up to like 15, 16.
Right.
And so I basically said, if they post 25, if they run the table again, will you give them a shot? And 2/3 to 3 out of 4 were like, no way. No, that wasn't enough. They basically said they'd have to do it 3 years in a row. That was the consensus. They needed to do like 36 in a row. Then they would be like, you know what? We got to fit them in the playoff and give them a shot.
Well, that's basically what we got over the course of a little longer time. Between you combine the 2. That's really what it took. It took the 20 some odd games of UCF and then 9 last year from Cincinnati. And now this year before it happened.
And what I think UCF did was, because remember those 2 years, UCF got no preseason love. I think in 2017, they were unranked. In 2018, they were like preseason 22nd, something like that. So, and we all know how it works. Usually it's too far for you to rise all the way up into the top 4, particularly if you're a group of 5. Like for Michigan, it's different. They were unranked this year. They're Michigan. They're in the Big Ten. That can change quickly, where all of a sudden you appear in the rankings for the first time and you do so at 14. That's not going to happen to a group of 5 school. And so, Mark, I do believe that Cincinnati owed, their top 10 preseason ranking to UCF from 2017 and 18.
Which was what we were clamoring upon in August. And when before Act 2 ended.
Right. Unceremoniously, by the way.
I don't know. I look back at it. It was one hell of a ceremony.
Well, it's
a story I'd like to tell one day because it was one hell of a ceremony.
It's unceremonious. I mean, we did say, listen, we're having a meeting with the boss in an hour. Hopefully we'll be on the air tomorrow. And we weren't. Right. The meeting lasted 4 minutes. What could go wrong in 4 minutes? We digress. On to Act 3. Back to UCF in Cincinnati, Mark. Oh, look at the time.
Oh, you got me right there, David. You buckled me.
We were pounding the table.
And you especially. Hey, look for the preseason ranking. And because what Michigan did this year, you couldn't do as a G5 team. It would never, ever happen.
Not even close.
You wouldn't have cracked the top 10. Michigan did it because they beat Penn State. They beat Ohio State. They won the damn Big Ten.
They're Michigan.
Right.
So the minute they showed they had a pulse, all of a sudden, as John Madden would say, boom, there they were in the rankings at like 12, Funny how that works. But I think the highest UCF got in any weekly college football playoff poll was 7. They won 25 games in a row. And the highest ranking at any point in time they ever got from that committee was 7. And that's very much pat you on the head.
Right. And we were at least nervous of Cincinnati losing to Georgia in last year's bowl game. And David flat out said, hey, they played them tough and they gave that away with clock management, which we all know. But if they would have won that game, where would their ranking be? That was one of our concerns. That was our only concern.
Right. Right.
But they popped in the top 10. So if you keep winning, it was really easy. We pointed it out to everybody. Well, here are the teams ahead of them. 3 of them were teams that were all going to play one another.
And they've got Michigan State, they've got Notre Dame in South Bend.
And they had Indiana as well. And at the time, Indiana was a top 20 team.
Right. Coming off of last year, they were preseason top 25. I think they ended up winning 2 or 3 games.
They didn't even win a conference game, but they did lose their quarterbacks, and there were reasons behind that. But they were a huge disappointment.
But they got the preseason top 10 ranking in both polls. Then they obviously did what they had to do, including beating Notre Dame soundly. 2 scores, led by 2 scores, basically the whole game. And then Notre Dame helped carry their water also because they didn't lose again. And if Notre Dame had beaten UCF, if Notre Dame had beaten Cincinnati, they'd be playing Alabama.
Yes.
In the semifinal. It's as simple as that. But Cincinnati won, and because of it, they're in. And as Lori says in our Twitch chat room, Knights fan here, and I'm pulling for the Bearcats. They would not be there if not for UCF. We agree. Now, we think it's going to happen by 2023. I guess it could be delayed longer, but it does seem to be. It's kind of like Central Michigan filling in the Sun Bowl. It just made too much sense for everybody. How could we not pull this off? I mean, it really does make a lot of sense for the Yahoos to get together in a week and a half in Indianapolis and figure this whole conference realignment, when we're going to do it, out. I mean, it's in everybody's best interest here. And the sooner you do it, the sooner, by the way, that you can get more money from the television networks. That's how it works. But I think, Mark, that this is significant also going forward for the Big 12. And let's be honest, Houston just won a bowl game. UCF just won a bowl game. Now here's Cincinnati. I mean, Mark, these could be the standard bearer programs in the Big 12 going forward.
Absolutely. And that, when we were talking to Angelique Chengelis, who covers the University of Michigan for the Detroit News, she's a proud Bearcat alum. And as she's, talked maybe Fickle one day to Ohio State, and she went through the coaches that have been at Cincinnati. And the fact of the matter is, if you're Luke Fickle right now, and this gets done the way we think it's going to get done, and in a couple of years, the playoff changed, Cincinnati could look at the Big 12 and look at what's around there and go, hell, I can win this conference every year.
And UCF and Houston will think the exact same thing. Well, hell, we can run this town.
Yeah.
As Jay-Z and Rihanna like to say.
Put it this way. When they come into the conference, where would you put them? When Texas and Oklahoma leave.
Right.
Rank the conference to me at the top of who you think the best teams are to win the football conference every year. Who's currently in there that's going to rank ahead of Cincinnati and UCF?
And
Oklahoma
Houston.
State?
And Houston.
Oklahoma State, right?
No.
Baylor?
Maybe. I mean, Dave Aranda's doing a good job, but no, Mark, in terms of talent.
Yeah.
Houston, Cincinnati, UCF, I think can get their hands on the best talent consistently in that conference. Absolutely. Houston's a top 5 market. UCF, we all know, Florida, Cincinnati, Ohio. Texas, Florida, Ohio. There's only one other state you put in that mix. It's California. They don't have anybody from there. Why can't these 3 teams dominate?
And you wonder what Oklahoma State's recruiting is going to be like without
Oklahoma.
Right. And without Texas, for that matter. Yeah. They're not playing Texas. Now, and transfers changing everything.
Send us your stories, your comments about the passing of John Madden. We will read a couple of them from the Twitch chat room and from the text line on the other side. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network.
system. This complete swing trainer uses resistance band connection system to fix back swing. The power training technology. It trains both your swing and simply make a few prescribed resistant band connections and a few steps appeal. You'll swing back routine or anytime you want to feel and train the swing you've always wanted. The that's at home training available with 4 free payments of $115. Use code this one year when I was a kid. I think it was really for me, but I bought the big popcorn maker, right? That you put the butter
Oh yeah.
in the top and
Right.
the steam would melt it.
Right. Yeah.
One of the greatest inventions of the late 20th century, David.
I didn't want your Jay-Z Rihanna reference to go unnoticed. So
Thank you.
That was good.
Thank you. Arch, I probably can give you a better boom than that. No, Vile One. He's yet to get his car. Well, he was 70 when he retired, and he just felt it was time.
Funny you asked that, Vile. No, I still don't have my car. What's funny is I got my co-host over here going, give him an ultimatum.
Yep.
And they're going to laugh at me because once the car comes in, they'll just sell it to somebody else. Unfortunately.
Wancho, no. First off, everyone's wearing a mask. I don't know, Wancho. Maybe it's my attitude, but I mean, I've done all I can do. Took all 3 shots. I wear the mask where I'm told to wear the mask. I even wear masks sometimes where I'm only encouraged to wear the mask. I mean, I think this is because I've gone from Florida to California to Minneapolis, New Jersey, Baltimore, New Jersey, Green Bay, with Florida mixed in a couple times. I mean, but we'll see. I'm not brown chicken. I never worry about delays. I only worry about cancellations. I've got nothing to do but wait. Seriously, if I have to sit all day in the airport, I'll sit all day. Delays don't concern me. Cancellations concern me. Like if I get to Dallas tomorrow and my flight from Dallas to El Paso is canceled, that's a 9-hour drive.
I might want to get this guy on. The Lehigh High School coach, Coach Cheney. He's got a huge following on Twitter. He has this whole thing about recruiting. So he sent out a tweet during the show today, not to me, but he just said, where is it? He said, what did it started out with? Okay, he says, starting to reevaluate everything I believe in in regard to recruiting high school football players. The rules have changed overnight. And I said, because of the portal or NIL or both? He said, both. I can't tell an incoming freshman the same thing I did 2 years ago.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
21 minutes after the hour, the home stretch of Miller and Moulton on this Wednesday, our second to last show of the year. We do a show tomorrow, and then we are off on Friday, New Year's Eve. We've been previewing the college football semifinals. Yesterday, plenty of Alabama-Cincinnati talk. Today, it was Angelique Chengelis and Mishkin talk. Tomorrow, likely to get someone who covers the Dogs. Plus, Bud Elliott will join us, get his thoughts on the matchups, what he's betting and why. All coming up tomorrow. But a few things that we've thrown out there today. First, just your remembrances, thoughts, reflections on John Madden, who passed away yesterday morning at his Northern California home at the age of 85. Word came out a little after 7 o'clock Eastern last night. Mark, there's a gentleman in our Twitch chat room who said he was at an airport and he saw this really big guy who was just sitting at the counter and he needed to eat. And so he asked him, is it okay if I sit here? And the guy said, sure. And he looked over, huge hands, Super Bowl ring. And he went, I'll be damned. It's John Madden. And he said, sat there for an hour. He was great. Since
I can't say I'm surprised.
No.
Story, but
No.
I can't say that I'm surprised by the story.
No.
I'd be surprised if someone was sitting down and Madden was a jerk. You know what I mean? Like that would stun me.
Have heard hardly any of those stories, by the way, on or off the air over the years about John Madden. I think one of the best things that someone can say about you, especially when you are a big deal, is that he was a big deal who he or she did not take themselves seriously as a big deal. And that apparently was Madden. And that when the bus would pull over and they'd be on the road, that John essentially would shake everybody's hand.
And I will tell you, when you bust like John did, you're stopping at truck stops. You're stopping at truck stops with the most interesting people you will ever see in your life. I rode hockey buses for 12 years. I've been to all these truck stops at 2 a.m. because that's when Bussy needs gas. And you kind of roll over and you wake up and it's like, I always was waiting to run into a rock and roll band on the road doing this. When are you going to run into the other tour bus? Because eventually you just kind of seem like you live this deja vu lifestyle. So I'm sure Madden had to be a huge hit at truck stops across America.
Peter King documented it when he spent a week on the Madden Cruiser, with John behind the scenes, going from one game to another and his prep and all that. And he just said, hey, we pulled over at 2 o'clock in the afternoon in Wyoming. And he goes, there were people following us for 150, 200 miles who just wanted to be able to say hi to him and take a picture with him and shake his hand. Madden said it made him really believe in America. He goes, when I started traveling that way, he goes, you see the country, and you do hear people who run for president, and it's tough for us to take them seriously because
they're lying for a living.
Right. But they say similar things as well that, and it's in the Madden documentary, All Madden on Fox tonight, 9 to midnight. 2 90-minute episodes back to back. It's the same one on FS1, and I believe it's going to be 8:00 Thursday night on Big Fox for those that want to either see it or record it.
Yeah, set your TV recorder properly. Set your cable box properly to get that if you're not going to watch tonight. And I've always said, and I love traveling by the buses. As much as that we complain, there was just a lot of fun things. I'll never forget just stopping at, random towns. Like there was a time we're going to Little Rock, and we just stopped somewhere I don't know where the hell we were. We were somewhere in Arkansas. And a third of the bus got off because people were still sleeping. It was about 5 a.m. And the coach was Bob Ferguson at the time. And Fergie and I went up to the counter and grabbed a bite to eat and got a biscuit to go and walked on the bus. And he just looked at me and goes, "You think we're the first 2 new people that have come to that counter in 15 years? And I'm like, pretty much, because it just looked like it was the same group every morning that were there. And they're all, and when you go to those little towns, you know what you get? You get warmth and pleasantries, and everybody's a little nicer.
And Madden said it made him believe in America more, traveling the way that he did.
I need a good bus trip then. Maybe you should travel by bus to the Sun Bowl.
I used to travel by bus home from college.
Really?
There were times where I didn't have a car, usually because I would get my mom's hand-me-downs, and my mom's hand-me-downs were so broken down.
Right.
So bad that there were times in which I would show up for the semester with a car, and the car could not finish the semester. So I would have to go home via bus. Mart's Trailways from Scranton to Jersey. Many stops along the way.
Never in my life have I done that.
Really? Huh.
Never taken a Greyhound type bus anywhere. I think I've only taken a city bus once in my life. Maybe twice.
Wow. You're much more sheltered than I thought.
Very true. Very true, David.
Miller and Moulton on this Wednesday, talking the semifinals and asking many of you, hey, what level is your SEC fatigue? In fact, SEC fan, are you secretly rooting for Cincinnati and or Michigan? And we've had quite a few people, Mark, in our Twitch chat room say, oh, I've been one of those obnoxious people the last 10 years chanting SEC, SEC. And they said, I am rooting so hard for Michigan.
And then you have this person who's so incredibly torn. The Gator fan in me is rooting for Michigan. The SEC fan in me wants to see an SEC national championship. The college football fan in me says, go Michigan. See, I thought that would end with the college football fan in you says, go Cincinnati. Because Alabama getting beat would be great for college football. Because here's the thing. They'll be in the playoff next year. I'm going to go on a limb right now, David. And I'm going to predict Alabama goes to the college football playoff next year.
Well, you are going out on a limb, especially with Bryce Young having to return to Alabama.
Right.
There's no doubt about it.
In fact, I'll go on another limb. You heard it here first. They're going to be preseason number 1.
Whew.
I know.
You are really
here, guys.
Boy, I'll tell you. All right, Skip.
But I think because of all those things, Alabama getting beat doesn't hurt Alabama's brand any.
How about this? I do think it would hurt the SEC brand.
That's possible.
I don't think Cincinnati has to win, by the way. I just think if Cincinnati gives them a legit game, 7-point game, 10 minutes to go, 6-point game, 10 minutes to go, Cincinnati actually has the ball. They could take the lead at some
Basically,
point in time
the Arkansas-Alabama game.
Yeah.
You give me that game and let Alabama win.
I think it would be great for college football. I think it would open the sport up. I also think it would lead to them getting together in Indianapolis in and around January 10th and striking a deal. I mean, the worst thing that could happen, apparently Greg Sankey is the one that actually wants to make a deal. He wants it to be an open process. He wants the top 6 conference champions, no matter their conference affiliation, to get automatic spots in the playoff. But there are other conferences who have their own agendas. All right. if Alabama and Georgia both win and cover, I mean, Greg Sankey can sit at that table, legs crossed, arms folded.
And look at him and say, I'll take the damn deal away.
Listen,
I get 2 every year. Do you guys not understand that?
This is working for me, just so you know. It ain't working for all of you. I'm actually trying to put up a system here that's more democratic, that brings more of you in than what some of you say you want, which makes no sense, by the way. Yes, I'm doing it because ultimately I want 4 teams in.
But it's to me, and David, I like 2. I was fine with 4. You and I were 6 guys for the longest time. I know there are a lot of folks out there that don't want college to turn into the NFL, but it's impossible to me for someone to argue that 12 in the playoffs doesn't make the regular season more important, not less. I don't think the regular college football season's ever been less important. This year proved me wrong. This is the first year in a decade where the regular season actually mattered.
Yeah, this is the first one since like 2014, 2015, in which there was some real meaning to many games, particularly final weekend of the year.
All the way through the year. I mean, that stop by Baylor is one of the biggest plays of the college football season. To me, that determined a playoff spot for Cincinnati.
And the conference championship games had great meaning this year.
Great meaning.
Great meaning. I mean, if Alabama loses, the thought was they're out. Cincinnati lost, they clearly would have been out. If Oklahoma State had won, there are those that think they would have been in. Michigan does not get in the playoff if they lose to Iowa. And the Big Ten could have been shut out of the playoff, even though they were the dominant conference this year in the sport. So just asking, where are you with John Madden, coach, broadcaster, or video game? What is it you think of first? And then your SEC fatigue. Just how tired are you? Are you an Ohio person? Yes, that's right. Are you an Ohio person rooting for Cincinnati and Michigan?
I really want to know what the Buckeye fan is rooting for Georgia. But if Michigan plays Alabama, if I'm right with who wins, and who cares whether I only want to be right for this reason, I want to really pin down the Buckeye fan and figure out who they're rooting for. Because they'll say Alabama, but they hate Alabama every bit as much as they hate Michigan right now.
I know, but I don't think they can handle Michigan winning a national title.
No, they couldn't.
I mean, you got to remember, for all their success, they've only won 1 in the last 20 years. Well, 2, technically 0-2, but you know what I mean. I mean, Urban won the 1, Tressel won the 1. If all of a sudden now Michigan wins a natty, like, I think they wouldn't mind Michigan beating Georgia. But then it's got to stop.
Yeah, I don't think they want to get in the position. I don't think they want to even be in the position where there's an opportunity for Michigan to win the final game. I think they are wearing all of their scarlet, chanting "Go Dogs." They're barking during the game.
Now, I have a question. If Cincinnati beats Alabama, can Ohio State schedule them? How about that, Buckeye fan? What do you think? What do you say? A little something for the effort?
Look at you. That right there. The ref's coming up to you and saying, "Hey, get those punches up a little bit."
Right.
That was right below the belt.
Yes, it was.
And justified.
Thank you.
Every bit of it was.
Thank you. 26 minutes before the hour, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Today was the day when? What's on tap? Final thoughts on this Wednesday, the final one of 2021. Miller and Moulton. Boom! See, that's why I didn't say
there you
boom.
go.
There
you go.
Voice cracked a little bit. You know, it was a John Madden. Boom! Here on the Florida Sports Network.
It's been a great start to the NFL season, and it's only getting better at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. DraftKings is putting new customers in the center of the action with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Get in on the action now. It's simple. Just pick your lineup, stay under the salary cap, and see how your team stacks up against the competition. Feel the NFL action like never before with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. DraftKings is safe, secure, and and reliable. And the best part is, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings app now and use code M&M. This week, new customers can get a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Enter code M&M to get a free shot at millions in total prizes with your first deposit. That's code M&M, only at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Oh.
Do you know the Powerball is worth like $440 million?
Mm-hmm.
We should win that.
I have to go get tickets on my way home. I do think it's stories. You know, it's funny. I think ESPN is now the anti-CNN. Like, people go to CNN when something big happens still. Okay. They don't watch CNN during the day-to-day. But
Right.
if something big happens, they flip over to it. I don't think ESPN has anybody with any depth or perspective anymore. So when something big happens like Madden, I think it's a total.
Are you seeing what they've been putting on for this?
Yeah.
I mean, they've had Berman. That's the only thing worthy that they've had today.
Who are they going to go to?
No, it's me. They've got nobody else.
Who are they going to go to? What am I saying? US Route 1. There you go.
If any of you win the Powerball, can you just sponsor the show? That's all I really ask.
Yeah, I got tilted a little more towards me.
I think I bumped it when I was doing that phone crap.
Wow, first three numbers on the Mega Millions. That must have gotten you excited. Arch, if you win Powerball, you can have Philly's job.
Yeah.
We'll explain it to Philly. Hey, man, sorry. This is like a college football team. Don't know what to tell you. We found a better scholarship athlete. Plays the same position as
We
you.
went to the transfer portal. Hate to tell you.
You shouldn't have left town. That's what happens. Out of sight, out of mind.
Thank you, Seth. Appreciate that.
There you go. That's
Who
nice
you
and
know
a
what?
sore
Who
point.
am I playing golf with today? Let's get to what's
Boy,
important.
there's real tough. The tough questions
My
of life right
tea
there.
time list.
Look at that. Yep. Tough.
Ugh.
$10, Adam.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
Have to admit, in the Twitch chat room, and if you've never taken in the show on Twitch before, it's twitch.tv/Miller and Moulton. We have our own channel. You're not going to believe what it's called. It's called Miller and Moulton. And you get to see the show weekdays, 6 to 10 a.m., although no show this Friday. Taking Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve off this year. You know, next year, the eves are on Saturdays and the big days are on Sundays.
I know.
We're going to end up working.
It's the bad run of holidays for us, David.
We're going to end up working everything next year.
The Tuesday, Thursday is the best one. Tuesdays and Thursdays. Because Wednesdays, they still try to get you to work front and back end of that sucker.
Sure.
You're stuck doing Monday, Thursday, Friday.
Right. But if it's on a Tuesday, then you can do the 4-day weekend.
Right.
Take eve and day off and come back on Wednesday.
And when it's on a Thursday, you can take Eve, Christmas, and you can get away with the Friday occasion.
Wow. Look at you. You say so. We'll look forward
We're
to
done with all that. We're going to have to be best ofs.
Right. Sure.
If this thing's still going, there are people that are going to have to work. Not Miller and Moulton, but there are people that are going to have to do some work.
Best of. I don't know if there's enough editing that can provide a best of. We can barely get through a show. We have to provide a best of? Wow. I don't know how those syndicated shows do it. 18 minutes before the hour. Time now for...
Leave it to the oldest guy in the show, and definitely the oldest soul, to live in the past. Here's David Moulton with Today Was the Day When...
I will say we have someone recommending instead of a best of, we should do worst of. Now,
I like that idea.
That's funny. Could probably get that sponsored. Best of, worst of, I'm in. All right, we'll start with kind of our U.S. world history first before we get to sports, because this is all going back. Mark, Texas is 176 years old today. 1845 on this day, Texas became our 28th state. Mark, the bowling ball is almost 160 years old.
Wow.
1862, in the middle of the Civil War, the bowling ball was invented.
What, extra cannons?
I'm actually surprised. I would have thought this is something that would have been invented, by the Greeks, to be honest with you. I mean, they had time on their hands, really. I figured they would have used stone and they would have come up with something.
All right.
They could, just a thought. The Wounded Knee Massacre happened on this date in 1890. Look it up. It's a real toe tapper.
Oh, my goodness.
130 years ago today, that Edison guy again, man, he just never took a nap.
That's all he did. He didn't sleep. He just every once in a while took a nap.
Talk about a guy who just needed a vacation. Man, Thomas Alva. 1891, he patented the radio. 130 years ago today. Mark, it was on this day in 1940 that the Germans decided, you know what? We're going to break the Brits. And they dropped 10,000 bombs on London. And Churchill was so impressed, he said, Hitler will have to break us or he's going to lose the war. And Churchill, tea at 4:00 every day. He wasn't breaking. And the first ever hearing aid was sold on this date in 1952 in New York. Not the city, upstate. Mark, in sports, Do you ever wonder why officials wear stripes?
Because plaid doesn't look good on them.
Well, apparently it was this date in 1955 that NHL officials for the first time wore vertically striped black and white sweaters. And obviously, over time, all of the sports, except Major League Baseball, would go that route.
Major League Baseball should go with horizontal stripes just so we can see the guts of the umpires behind home plate.
Unbelievable. All right, here's the day, ladies and gentlemen. December 29th, 1957. The Detroit Lions' last NFL championship. They beat Cleveland 50-14. They scored 2 touchdowns in each of the 4 quarters. Detroit 50, Cleveland 14, 64 years ago today. They've won 1 playoff game.
Oh, my goodness. That's just horrible.
It was on this date, Mark, I was 10 days old, in 1965, that CBS purchased the television rights for the NFL for the next 3 years. They paid $18.8 million a year for the NFL 56 years ago. I don't think that will allow you to air the Detroit-Atlanta game now on a weekly basis. Mark, it was on this day in 68, what was known as the NFL and AFL championships would become the NFC and AFC championships. But you want to know why the Colts were an 18.5-point favorite over the Jets? They beat Cleveland today to win the NFL championship 34-0. While the Jets barely got by the Raiders, Madden not the coach.
The year before. He was the coach the next year,
He
right?
would become the coach the next year.
Because he went to Super Bowl 3 as the linebacker, 2 as the linebackers coach?
Yes.
Okay.
Super Bowl 2 as the linebackers coach. And then he would take over the job shortly after this game. Their coach left to, I think, go to Buffalo.
Yes.
Jets, Namath with 3 touchdowns, including 1 late to Maynard, 27-23 over the Raiders. I mean, that's how much a staple the Raiders were, because Madden takes over and takes them to the AFC Championship game 7 of the next 10 years. So he inherits a team that goes to the AFC Championship and loses, and then takes them 1 step from the Super Bowl 7 times in the next 10 years. Once again, to just reiterate the whole Miracle on Ice and why it is labeled as such. On this date in 1979, the eventual Stanley Cup champion New York Islanders lost to the Red Army at home 3-2. Do I need to read off?
That's Bossy, Trottier, Clark Gillies.
That's just one line. Right.
Right. This popping guy played defense. Hey, this Billy Smith character in goal, he was pretty good.
Yep.
Probably the dirtiest goaltender that's ever played the game.
I don't know if it's arguable.
Hextall would take an eye out if he could.
would. I mean, Hextall would say, hey, I'd at least like a little something for the effort. But so just so you know, Red Army 3, Islanders 2. Islanders go on to win the Cup 5 months later. 6 weeks later, you know what happens in Lake Placid. Bear Bryant coached his last game today in 1982. He and the Tide won the Liberty Bowl 21-15 over Illinois. It was actually a big deal for Illinois. They hadn't been to a bowl game, I think, since Butkus played with them. They hadn't been to a bowl game in 19 years. Bear Bryant would die 4 weeks later, January 26th. He gave a flippant quote late in his career in which he was asked, hey, what are you going to do if you retire? And he said, I'll probably croak within a week. 1984, Wayne Gretzky scored his 100th point in the 35th game of the year. He had a pretty good night. He scored 3 goals with 3 assists. That's only the second fastest getting to 100 points in 35 games, because the year before he did it in 34 games. Tom Brady was on this date, 2007, Mark. The Patriots finished the 16-0 regular season. Brady throws his then record 50th touchdown pass. Patriots beat the Giants We know how it ended. 8 years ago today, Michael Schumacher with a serious head injury skiing. He has not been seen in public since, the 7-time F1 champion. And it was just a year ago, the Bucks set an NBA record with 29 threes and a 47-point win over the Heat. A few people who were born on this day to have passed away: Pete Dye, Ray Nitschke, Wayne Huizenga. A few people who are very much with us. Sean Payton is 58 today. Jay Fiedler is 50. And Theo Epstein is all of 48.
Makes you take stock and realize how little you've done.
I was going to say, that's enough to really honk you off, isn't
It
it?
really and truly is, David.
Talk about a guy it's real easy to hate. Really? You broke the curse with the Red Sox and the Cubs?
And you haven't turned 50 yet.
Yeah, by your early 40s?
Mhm.
You blankety blank you. And that, Mark, is today was the day.
Two very small omissions. Very small, because you would have never picked up on these. One, Marianne Faithfull, born today in 1946, co-wrote Sister Morphine with, at that time, her boyfriend by the name of Mick Jagger, off of Sticky Fingers, I think the best Stones album. And Jim Croce's Time in a Bottle was number 1 today in 1973, 3 months after he was killed in a plane crash. And that takes us to, it's getting there. The computer's firing up. There we go.
Florida is gonna Florida. Well, Mark Miller sees it differently. He calls it the good, the bad, and the ugly. What you got, Mark?
That hamster's really hustling over
We
there.
go to Maryland for the good, where a 43-year-old Maryland woman pushed the wrong button on the lottery vending machine. Good thing she did. It cashed her $50,000.
That's fantastic.
The Beverly County, where Yoel Lewis was arrested in Lehigh Acres for stealing $4,000 worth of material from a home under construction. You're a jerk. Finally, the ugly, we go to Oregon, where a woman slipped. I was actually on this trail at the Multnomah Falls. She slipped on a trail, was hanging onto a tree 300 feet above the ground before the fire department came and rescued her. Hanging 300 feet over a cliff. It's every bit of my worst nightmare. That's the good, the bad, and the ugly on today, December the 29th.
5 of the 11 NHL games scheduled for tonight have already been canceled. Panthers are hosting the Rangers. It's actually a pretty good game, 7 o'clock if you're bored and you got nothing to do. Or if you're on your way over to that coast to get ready for the Michigan-Georgia game, you could do worse than starting your trip off with a little Panthers-Rangers. Mark, meanwhile, the NHL, lucky to get half their games in. NBA, playing all 9 games tonight. Heat, who were in action last night at home, go on the road to San Antonio at 8:30 tonight. We got bowl games. Only one of them canceled. That's the Fenway Bowl. But we got 3 others that are tentatively scheduled. Of course, anybody can pull the UCLA and cancel 3 to 4 hours before kickoff. But we got the Pinstripe Bowl, Maryland and Va Tech. Maryland a 4-point favorite. We got the Cheez-It Bowl. Come on now. How could it not be your favorite bowl? Clemson, a 2.5-point favorite against Iowa State.
Did you see Dabo in the presser in the jumpsuit yesterday?
No.
Quite a look.
Was it orange?
Yeah.
Well, between Cheez-It and Clemson, I would
Right.
expect it to be. And I will say, kind of a sexy matchup here. The Alamo Bowl, a couple of 10-win teams, Oregon and Oklahoma. OU, a 6.5-point favorite. A couple of interim head coaches there. One of them's named Bob Stoops. He had a great answer at the presser yesterday. Somebody asked him about strategy and what have you. He said, what are they going to do, fire me?
Well, I don't know if Mike Leach would like to be asked that question today, because he did spend 2 days trashing Texas Tech, only to be beat down by Texas Tech yesterday.
All right. He'd still say, hey, congratulations to them. They still owe me money.
And I've been willing to settle for a long time, and they refused to settle.
Miller and Moulton. Great show for you tomorrow. Bud Elliott, Seth Everett, Pat Kerwin, our final show of the week. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled